Let's go! What is up, diehards? Welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your boy, Clint, the host, the man wearing the baby blues. We're coming off a nice winning weekend at UFC Vegas 62, but it feels good. Got some extra bullets locked and loaded in the chamber for UFC 280, biggest card of the freaking year. We've all been looking ahead to this card, salivating, foaming at the mouth. We're all so ready for this card, and it's finally here, baby. I am so pumped up. I am excited, and as you can tell, your boy is finally feeling a little bit better. I've been battling a cold for like the last, 2 weeks. I don't know. Like, I still got, you'll have to apologize right from the jump. I may have to get a sip of water. I may have to clear the throat a couple times. I'm still not 100%, but I've laid 92-ish. Like, I'm in that ballpark. We're back. We're back, baby. I'm so excited. I can't wait to break down this epic fight card with you all this evening. Welcome in, everybody. We got the usuals in here. Dream, Grateful Dude, I Love Clinty, baby. Mike Harvey in the chat. Dirty Reg 22. We've got Nick Peppered. Hey, yo, what's going on? Lou Betia. That's my guy right there. Hopefully some yam bags this weekend. Let's go. Victor Jesus. All right, everybody. Y'all know the drill. Now more than ever, big UFC pay-per-view card. Lots of eyes on this bad boy. Hit the like button for me. I appreciate you. And you know what? I can't spend too much time goofing off because we got such a gigantic card to get through. But we had a good week last week. Plus 3.25 units. Nice little win. Casher. That's why we're rocking the Die Hard Stimulus Check t-shirt. By the way, if you want to support me, if you want to support the show, and if you'd like to continue having free, awesome betting content, support Pub Sports Radio. We've got a bunch of different outlets that you guys can go to using promo code Pub Sports. If you want to do something like bet online, they got .ag, and then of course Prize Picks. And then if you want to go to the Pub Sports Radio shop, buy yourself a Stimmy t-shirt. Those are the ways that you can really help us out. And again, the simplest thing you can possibly do, hit the like button. That gets going. All right, folks, I've got one of the OG guests in. Pause. Glenn Bot 5,000 in the house. Thank you very much for the donation, my friend. Thanks, gents, for all you do week in, week out. Thank you, Glenn Bot, for helping us keep the lights on here at Pub Sports Radio. We appreciate you all very much. All right, so one of the OGest of OG guests, one of your personal favorites, the stat master of MMA himself is joining me for the show this evening. None other than your very own Uncle Wheezy. What's up, Wheezy? How you doing tonight, my friend?
I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. This is the best card of the year. I'm so fired up for this card, and to be a guest on your show for the best card of the year it's got me especially fired up, my man. I'm coming off a 2-unit loss last week. I was 10-1 on my picks, and Victor Henry was a 6-unit swing. Trashed my 4-leg parlay on the last leg, and also trashed my 2-leg parlay where I had him parlay with Piero Rodriguez. But, you know, these last two cards that have been very, very low level, and I've had barely any bets on either of the last two. I've already got more action on this card than I had on the last two combined, and I'm probably looking to throw another 10 or 15 units down. This card is amazing from a fight standpoint, from a high-level mixed martial artist standpoint, from a gambling standpoint. It's all there this week. I can't wait to chop it up with you, Clint. This is amazing.
I love it, Wheezy. I'm sorry to hear that you're coming off an L like that. Victor Henry pulled the rug out from all of us. I was lucky enough to dodge that bullet myself. I came this close to parlaying him, so I was happy to get out of there alive on that one. But we have so many good fights to talk about. There's going to be lots of action spots here on this big ass card. So I'm right there with you. I'm looking to get invested. I'm looking to stack some units, and hopefully we can get there without getting any orange juice squeezed in my eyeballs by you. I don't think there's any fights on this particular card where you're going to threaten to call the orderlies on me. This one seems to be pretty solid.
It is, dude, because it's a high-level card. So, there's reasons to like just about every fighter. You know what I mean? Like on last week's card, yeah, Pete Rodriguez got out there and he got the job done in a minute and a half, right? But do you lay minus 700 on a guy who's got 7 minutes of pro experience? No, you don't do that. Those are the kind of bets that you want to stay away from. If you're betting on that Dillashaw-Sterling fight, you've got a good reason to take either one of those fighters because they're both fantastic fighters. Makhachev, Oliveira, O'Malley, Yan, Dariush, Gamrot, Chukagian, Firo. I mean, it just goes on and on. This is such a high-level card, so we don't have to worry about those orange bag beating bets this week, man. Well, let's just beat the bookies with a bag of oranges until we juice them, drink the juice in front of them, and just enjoy it.
Agreed. I'm right there with you, Easy. And for anybody wondering, of course, the NHL season is back, and my degenerate ass, of course, is sweating out some bets over here. My Coyotes playing the Toronto Maple Leafs. I got plus 2.5 on the spread, and of course, I sprinkled the money line at plus 425 because they beat them twice already last year. So let's go Yotes if anybody cares about the ice action over here. All right, everybody. Let's dive straight on into this thing. As you know, the show and the lines are presented to you by Superbook Sports. If you want a legal, regulated, U.S.-based book, make sure you get your asses on over there to Superbook Sports. They've got great juice, great lines. Make sure everything is nice and fair for everybody. So if you want a good spot to shop and put your action down, there you go. First fight of the evening this week, Uncle Weezy. Lina Lansberg back in action against Karol. Rosa. And this is, I kind of forgot about Lina Lansberg, Weezy, if I'm being honest. I thought she was already retired at this point. She is 40 years old. She came off a long layoff, I believe, due to having a kid. And she's getting up there. We have that 40-year-old bar where you start to worry about fighters. She's 10-6, so one of those middle-of-the-road aging WMMA veteran types. She's 2-3 in her last 5. 3 of her 5 losses have come by way of knockout. To be fair, it was to Cyborg, Aspen Ladd, and then her very first MMA fight against Piani Kinzad, which she just avenged in her last fight, I believe. Man, she's got some nasty elbows. They call her the elbow queen for a reason. She likes to kind of take that Homer Simpson approach of outlasting you, wait until you slow down, and then just bombing on you when she's got the opportunity to inside the clinch. She's only got a 48% takedown defense, though, which is a little bit concerning. Karol Rosa on the flip side, we've seen the changing of the guard this entire year, right? Like, it's been a big storyline, in my opinion, in MMA 2022, is that all these old dogs, they're getting ushered out. We see a lot of these fighters go down, and that's the plan here. 27 years old. For some reason, my brain tells me Karol Rosa's older than that. I feel like I always thought she was like 32 or something like that, but she is not. BJJ black belt, physically powerful, physically strong. She got that vet lesson from Sarah McMahon, got mauled for 15 minutes in her last fight. You kind of expect her to grow from that kind of an experience. Nasty ground and pound, high output, 72% takedown defense, 2-inch reach advantage. I mean, Weezy, this feels like a smash spot to me. Like, how is this not a showcase spot for Karol Rosa?
It obviously is. She's only 27 years old, and Lina Lansberg's 40. She doesn't have a long mixed martial arts career. She started when she was 30. So sometimes some of these 40-year-olds, look at Guido Canetti, right? Guido Canetti is like winning fights now because the dude only had like 12 pro fights. He started when he was like 30. So now there's not a lot of tread on the tires, and he's able to still perform at a higher level even though he's 40. But both of these ladies are coming off a loss to a 40-year-old in Sarah McMahon. Sarah McMahon beat Lina Lansberg 2 fights ago, a couple of years ago when she was 40, and Karol Rosa's most recent loss here to Sarah McMahon. But this is not that kind of matchup here. This is going to be pretty much a striker versus striker matchup. You got Lansberg, who does very well in the clinch, and you've got Karol Rosa, who throws a ridiculous amount of volume. 12 significant strike attempts per minute. Her opponents are throwing about 9. So she's just out-voluming, outlanding her opponents. She's got a positive 2.2 significant strike differential, while Lina Lansberg has a negative 1.15. So Rosa, obviously the way better minute winner on the feet. She lands more, she throws more, she's more accurate, and she's more defensively responsible. And then on the grappling side, Rosa getting 1.4 takedowns per 15 minutes, Lansberg getting 0.62. Rosa out-controlling her opponents at a 2-to-1 ratio. Lina Lansberg being out-controlled at like about a 1.5-to-1 ratio. So it looks like Rosa is pretty much the better minute winner wherever the fight goes. And then if you look at the level of competition these ladies have faced and beaten, that's even in Rosa's favor. But length minus 325 on a women's favorite is something that I've retired from doing. What's Rosa by decision right now, though? Because Rosa by decision, if we could find that prop, that would probably be the way I'd be looking to play this.
Wheezy, frankly, I'm a little disappointed because we should have props by now. Yeah. This is UFC 280, folks. Like, why do we still have the dark ages of MMA? They've only got props out for like the top couple of fights, the main event, the co-main event. I'm not sure what that prop number looks like right now, Wheezy, but you got to think that that's maybe the way to go here, because the one thing Lina Lansberg does do well is take a beating. She is durable as all shit. She is one of these tough as a $2 steak style early women's MMA pioneers. It is hard to get her out of there. Now, Rosa's the kind of fighter who I could see actually getting her out of there, but if you want to bring that price tag down, you don't want to lay that type of price tag. You kind of got to pick your poison decision, probably a little more likely than TKO, even though I do think it's possible.
Yeah, I think it's at minus 125. I just looked on another book. So they got Rosa by decision at minus 125. And you look at Lansberg's never won a fight inside the distance at the UFC level. Neither is Rosa. And if I'm going to my prop template here where we look at these over-under lines, we can see that 12 of these 14 ladies' fights at the UFC level have went to decision. So if you're looking to get a minus 325 favorite at a better price, we can know that Karol Rosa has won all 4 of her UFC fights by decision, and that Lansberg has only been finished by Aspen Ladd and Chris Cyborg, up a weight class on short notice, if I'm not mistaken there. So, yeah, we can count on Lansberg's durability probably, and we can count on the fact that Rosa's never finished anything with this level, and we can get that minus 325 down to a minus 125. That's probably the way to play this one.
Okay, I like it, Wheezy. I like it. Hey, folks, we are 12 minutes in. We got 78 live viewers at this point. Thank you all very much for jumping into the show, spending your Monday evenings with us. If you missed the early intro, help us out. Smash the like button. That's the best thing you can do to support us here on this show. Get the word out. Let's get some bodies in here. Oh, and by the way, 1-0 Yotes, baby. We're up already on the Maple Leafs. Get out of here with that plus 425 shit. I'm hitting a big one tonight, folks. All right, next one up. We got Muhammad Mokaev taking on Malcolm Gordon. And I mean, okay. You know what? First off, I apologize. Pump the brakes. My guy, Mike Harvey, coming in with the $5 dono, saying, I haven't donated in a while. You and your guests deserve it. Thanks for the constant hype and great talks. Great takes. Thank you, Mike. I highlighted your comment, and I meant to scroll back to it between fights. Nearly forgot. I'm too excited. I'm having way too much fun already. Thank you so much for the donation, my friend. Absolutely means the world. So in this fight, Wheezy, we have got, the UFC, I don't believe in fixed fights. I know there's some people out there that like to have the take of fights are fixed, fights are rigged. The rig was in way beforehand. We already know the judges' scorecards are filled out. I don't believe in that kind of shit. I really don't. But I do believe in setup fights. This right here, Wheezy, this is a setup fight. Malcolm Gordon is the chinniest fighter on the roster. He was competing with Jordan Wright for those honors. And last week, my man Jordan Wright made it to the second round. So Malcolm Gordon is officially the chinniest fighter on the roster. This man has no durability whatsoever. Decent offensive wrestling. He showed off the grappling chops a couple times. Solid BJJ black belt. His submission skills are something that I do like. However, his wrestling is not as strong as you'd like it to be, going up against a monster in Muhammad Mokaev. 7-0, undefeated, 23 fights undefeated amateur career. This guy is not 7-0. He's coming in here and he's looking to smash. He landed a ridiculous 12 takedowns on Johnson in his last fight. Just chain grapples people, Wheezy. Does the usual Russian thing, couple of big power shots to close the distance, and then sticks to you like glue. Once this kid is on you, he is not getting off of you. And Malcolm Gordon, all of his losses are by knockout. 3 of those in the first round. Like, this guy just cannot take a punch. So even though I don't think Mokaev is some violent power puncher, if he's going to knock somebody out, it's going to be Malcolm Gordon. I kind of expect him to get this thing to the ground, land a couple shots. Gordon probably covers up and goes away. I think we're getting a round 1 finish from Muhammad Mokaev this week.
Yeah, I don't really see how you look at it any other way. I don't know what round he finishes him in or if he gets a decision here, but when you watch the tape on Gordon, yeah, solid grappler, solid submission grappler, right? But go back and you watch that Francisco Figueiredo fight, and and if you look at the numbers overall, you're like, oh wow, Malcolm did all right here. He got a bunch of minutes of control time. He came out with the win. But look, he lost that first round. Second of all, the only reason that he got on top twice was the fact that Figueiredo went for a leg lock when he was on top at the end of the first round, right? And then also Figueiredo threw a dumbass kick at the beginning of the third round, fell on his ass, and then Gordon just kind of walked into his guard and wound up being on top for 3 minutes there. This is such a huge step down in competition for Mokaev. That Charles Johnson fight, man, Mokaev fought like a grizzly veteran in that fight because Johnson had the way better striking. Johnson has the way better conditioning. Johnson's longer. He's taller. He's going to be the better striker in that fight. And what does Mokaev do? Hugs him for the full 15. There was not a 10-second stretch in that fight where Johnson got to plant his feet and throw strikes. And so that was a really good grappling performance, albeit boring. I mean, I'll bet if Dana saw him after the fight, he was like, hey, son, if you want to climb the ladder in this organization, you're going to need to be fighting more exciting fights than that. But that, to me, was very impressive because I thought that Charles Johnson was extremely live in that fight. He had fought probably better competition than Mokaev had up to that point in both of their respective careers. This is a huge step down. Gordon doesn't have 10% of the wrestling that Mokaev has. Gordon very chinny. I think there are places that that Gordon will look as competent as Mokaev while they're at distance striking. But really, I mean, the difference in these two in terms of the quality of the well-roundedness of their game, of the fight IQ, of the ability to just dominate the grappling exchanges, that's going to be all Mokaev. It's a shame the line is so juiced because I think he probably wins this fight 95 out of 100 times.
Frankly, Wheezy, we know, right? This was the fight that let us know that Little Figgy was not UFC caliber. Like, this was a showcase spot for Davison Figueiredo's brother against Malcolm Gordon, and he fumbled the bag. He got smothered by a guy who I would be able to knock out by blowing on him. Like, it's not... That didn't sound right. That didn't come out the way I edit. Jose, edit that out when the show goes.
Get the producer. We got to clip that out.
Let it be known I knock people up. Never mind. I'm not going to say that. So, no, seriously. This guy, no chin. And that's the big, big sign that Davison Figueiredo's brother is like, okay, you lose to Malcolm Gordon, fade train until the UFC cuts you. This is a layup fight for a kid who should be fighting much stiffer competition. But again, like I said, Wheezy, like you said, like I said, like we both said, it's a showcase. Last fight was incredibly boring. They want eyes on this kid. They want people to know what kind of prospect he is. They're giving him someone he can dispatch and do it quickly. So I'm expecting round 1 KO. I can't wait for the props because I really want a piece of that knockout prop. Inside the distance is probably going to be minus 200 by the time I can get my hands on it. That's a parlay piece in my opinion, folks. Like maybe somehow Gordon in, 1 out of 10 times survives a 15-minute fight with this kid. I have such a hard time seeing it. Like this is going to be, it's like Khamzat Chimaev's first couple of fights. It's going to be a slaughter.
Yeah, Gordon has 5 pro losses. They've all been inside the distance, 4 knockouts, 1 submission. He's never seen the scorecards in a losing effort. And the bookies right now have Mokaev at 90% to win this fight. So I don't like Gordon's chances to survive the full 15 in this one.
Agreed.
Even though Mokaev is a guy who could just like lay on him for 15 minutes, I think he's going to be looking to finish. He's in Abu Dhabi. Those sheiks are probably looking to give him big bonuses if he winds up finishing this kid, and I think that he absolutely will.
You would think so. And it may be a sneaky way to kind of buy down on this price tag, especially if we are expecting that kind of an early finish from this kid, would be to attack the round props. You know, that's something that people don't always talk about quite enough, but they're going to have the 1.5 set to -105 to the under. So, you know, take a look at the price tag, see what that knockout prop is when it comes out. But if we think he gets it done early, the way we're talking, you know, you've got halfway through round 2 for him to get the finish at -105. That might be a smarter way to attack it instead of picking a side or laying juice on a knockout prop. Obviously, it could happen later on in the fight, rolling the dice a little bit that he gets it done early, but I really think he does.
Yeah, when I see a favorite sitting around -800, -1,000, I'm either betting that underdog or I'm not betting it at all. It's just too hard. They're too juiced here. But yeah, this if Mokaev loses this fight, I don't even know what to say.
God, the world would be on fire if Mokaev found a way to lose this fight.
Dude.
Christopher Patrick, super sticker. Thank you very much for supporting the show, my friend, and supporting Pub Sports Radio. We absolutely appreciate the hell out of you for that one, my man. All right, everybody, moving along. Next fight up, we've got an absolute freaking banger. Armen Petrosyan is going to be taking on AJ Dobson. And I love both these guys, Weezy. This is one of those fights where I love the fight from an entertainment standpoint. I love the fight from a viewership standpoint. I hate the fight from a fan standpoint. And honestly, I almost hate the fight a little bit from a gambling perspective because I have been on the Armen Petrosyan train. I'm the conductor, man. I'm the guy. I am behind the train pushing the whole thing that I'm like, this kid is legit. He is 6-2, and he's had a rough run to start the UFC. Caio Borralho and RoboCop. Like, it doesn't get much tougher sledding than that to start your UFC career. And then they throw him AJ Dobson, another guy that I'm extremely high on with his skill set. I've got my Dana White Contender Series fade angle, Wheezy, and the one time I went against that angle, it was on AJ Dobson. And he got Jacob freaking Malkoun. We know how that guy sticks to your ankles and drags you to the mat. And he was hanging on for dear life that whole fight, got the decision win, made me feel like an idiot for going back against my own successful angle, the one literal angle that I have in MMA betting. AJ Dobson gets his first loss to Jacob Malkoun, but that's because Malkoun wanted nothing to do with this kid on the feet. He is heavy on his feet, kind of stomps his way into range, forward pressure, hard jab, big clinch knees to the body. His hands were never up in that fight, and I think that's probably because he was fighting Malkoun. I think defensively, he'll be a little bit more sound against a striking threat, not so much a grappling threat, so we can expect a little bit more from him in this kind of a fight, but he trains under Matt Brown, so if that tells you anything, the kind of striking violence that this kid is going to bring to the table, that's the camp that he's coming out of. 5-inch reach advantage. Now, Petrosyan, again, it sounds like I'm all in on AJ the way I'm talking about him, but Petrosyan chops his opponents down, Wheezy, attacks the legs and the body. He chips away at them, and then he swings big power strikes, kind of forces a technical brawl. This guy is crazy durable. You saw that in the Caio Borralho fight, in the RoboCop fight. Lots of feints, good footwork, and then he walks people into that power lead left hook of his. I love both these guys. But Armen Petrosyan is 6'3". He's going to have a 2-inch height advantage. He is huge in this spot. The problem is I feel like the line is maybe just a little bit disrespectful of Dobson. I do think that I side with Armen Petrosyan if I'm going to pick just a straight-out winner. I do think that he's going to be the guy that gets his hand raised at the end of the day. But I would not be surprised at all if AJ Dobson fought his way into this thing and pulled off the upset. -210 for Armen Petrosyan, +180 for AJ Dobson. Wheezy, it's dog or pass for me. I think this is going to be a high-level 15-minute kickboxing match. Both these guys have knockout power. Both these guys can threaten the other in pretty much every aspect of this fight. It's going to be a banger, and I don't think I want my money anywhere near it.
Yeah, dude, I think I agree with everything that you just said. A, yeah, this fight is amazing. It's such a good fight from a fan standpoint. B, I don't think my money's going anywhere near it either. I think this line is a little bit disrespectful to Dobson here. Now, Dobson in that Malkoun fight, we learned a lot about him, right? He won that first round. Malkoun probably tried to take him down about 8 times just in that first round. And Dobson's stopping it, landing big shots. But then in the second and the third round, Malkoun broke through. He used that conditioning, he used that pace, that pressure to wear down Dobson and to get him out of there, not finish him, but just get him out of there with the consistent wrestling. And he broke him. You could tell when Dobson went back to his round after the second round, went back to his corner, he was done. His head was down. He realized he couldn't stop the takedowns anymore, and there was nothing he could do about it. This is a completely different fight. And if you're on that Petrosyan side, I see what you're doing. He will be the better distance striker and minute winner, and we're seeing that the power numbers aren't really that far in favor of Dobson, and they come in small sample sizes anyway, so we can't really lean too much on the stats. But Dobson's got a nice little reach advantage here of 5 inches. That's significant. It looks like Dobson would probably be the guy that to more likely win minutes in the grappling exchanges here. What we haven't seen from AJ yet, who's training over there with Matt Brown and Mark Coleman, okay? What if he can wrestle? Because if he can, that plus number is going to be really nice. If he can go out there and win one of these 3 rounds by getting a takedown and getting 3 minutes of control time, landing some ground and pound, he's going to look a lot better than plus 180, I think, right? But we don't have the evidence to suggest that. And that's why I think the line is where it's at, because we can't count on Dobson to wrestle. And I don't think we can really count on him to be the minute winner in the striking. That's got to be Petrosyan. When have we seen Petrosyan lose minutes in the striking exchanges to somebody of AJ Dobson's caliber, right? It hasn't happened yet. Even on the Russian regional scene, this guy's getting taken down over and over and over again. As soon as he gets up, he lands a big body kick or a big overhand right, and the fight is over. So I do like Petrosyan in this spot, but I think what a great way to play this would be, if you're on that Dobson side, take him by first round knockout. Ooh. Because that's when he's most dangerous. I believe there are 5 finishes for AJ Dobson. I'm pretty sure that at least 4 of them are first round. And Petrosyan has been dropped and finished in the first round in one of his 2 pro losses on the regional scene to a guy who's not great. Hassan Yousefi, 9-5 fighter as a pro, bouncing around some regional scene organizations there. So I think Dobson by first round knockout at a fat plus money number would be the best way to play him. And I think that.
And I hear a little something.
Yeah, because look, dude, this guy finishes fights early, man. And Petrosyan, in his only finished loss, he got slept in less than a minute. And that's when Dobson is hitting at his hardest. So that's the way I would think about playing this fight. I'm picking Petrosyan because he's the better minute winner and because I can't count on Dobson to win minutes with the wrestling. But I think Dobson's actually kind of live at this price.
I completely agree with you, Weezy. And I believe the one loss where Petrosyan lost by finish, it was a first round knockout, unless I'm mistaken.
It was Hassan Yousefi.
Hassan Yousefi.
Yep, in Russia. So it was very quick too. He's susceptible just like anybody at this weight is. You land a big shot at 205, 185, that dude's going down, So it could happen. And that's how Dobson wins fights.
Yeah. No, I totally feel you, Weezy. Like I said, dog or pass for me just because of the betting line. Like, again, folks, if you're new to the show, this is a betting show. So, I'm going to pick Armen Petrosyan to win. I'm not going out there and laying 2-1 to watch him get it done. It's going to be sketchy. Armen Petrosyan has some of the worst takedown defense you've ever seen in your life. And you know why that is? Because on the Russian scene, you can't wrestle with these guys. So he worked his get-up game. You cannot keep this man on the floor unless you backpack him the way Caio did. That's like the one weakness that he's got, is if you throw in that body triangle and sit on him, then he's going to stay down. But if you're trying to just get his legs out from under him, he's standing right back up and he's punching you in the mouth. So AJ Dobson does have maybe the chance to mix in some takedowns. I don't see that going overly well for him. But the way both these guys throw on the feet, puncher's chance, absolutely. So I don't mind the dog shot. Anybody that wants to confidently take the dog shot, I don't mind that whatsoever. But I'm a Petrosyan fanboy. I was hoping for an opportunity to back him on this card, running the tape back on AJ Dobson. Just can't do it.
Yeah, such a great fight, though. I mean, you don't have to have money on this fight because you can just sit back and enjoy it without a dime on it. It's going to be such a banger.
You know what, Wheezy? We call them fireball and popcorn fights. When it's a fight that you just want to go grab a drink or get a snack, this is the good version of a fireball and popcorn fight. Get your snack and your drink before the bell rings. You don't want to miss a second of this one, but definitely not one that you need any action on.
Agreed.
All right, let's go, everybody. Next fight up, Abubakar Nurmagomedov taking on Gadzhi Omargadzhiev, and I expect some props for smashing those pronunciations right there, baby. Wheezy, this is the confusing fight of the night. I want to say it was our guy Pat McAfee on Twitter that posted the best meme I've seen so far this week, where it's the guy sweating because he doesn't know which button to press, and it's like parlay the ovs and the evs, and on this fight he's like, can't do, because like you've got two Russian monsters going head to head here in this spot. It's an interesting matchup. Abubakar Nurmagomedov 16-3-1 somehow made it to the UFC after a draw in PFL. One of those weird situations where someone comes off a bag fight but still gets rewarded with the UFC shot. Dropped his UFC debut to David Zawada. Made me believe that David Zawada was an epic UFC fighter that was going to have some prospect upside down the road. Big old lie for me, Uncle Wheezy. I was upset about that. He did beat Jared Gooden in his next fight, a fighter I've got a ton of respect for, but also a fighter that's been cut by the organization. So questions about just how good Abubakar is here in this spot. He's got a long, active jab, heavy on his feet. He's more of a striking Russian than the grappling Russian. He does have that classic body lock and pressure when he does need to mix that in. 6 wins by knockout very early in his career. So he does have some knockout power, swings a little bit wild with his power shots when he gets the opportunity. He's going to have a 1-inch reach advantage here. 29 years old, Gadzhi Omargadzhiev. He's coming off the Contender Series. He dropped that debut against Caio. Round 1, knee bar on Dana White Contender Series, though. Kid's got some grappling chops on him. He hit a beautiful takedown on Caio. He was a pick'em against Caio Borralho in his UFC debut. Wheezy. People expected some big things from Omargadzhiev. He immediately got swept by Caio Borralho when it hit the ground, and we found out real quick the level that guy is on the mat once he got to the floor with Omargadzhiev. Big looping bombs this guy throws, and honestly, Wheezy, this is one of those spots where I feel like the UFC is selling on a Russian for a Russian. And I mean, obviously one of these Russians is going to win on Saturday, but I kind of think the wrong guy is favored here. I think Abubakar, damn it, I nailed it like the first 3 times saying it. Now I'm stumbling over it. I think Abubakar is getting the love because of that last name, because he's a Nurmagomedov. He's a -170 favorite. But I think this line should be pick 'em at worst. I think Omargadzhiev is actually the better of the 2 prospects, and he's a +150 underdog. Believe it or not, I haven't moved on this one, but I do again think this is a dog or pass situation. I think people are selling a little too early on Gadzhiev because of Caio Borralho. I think Caio Borralho smashes Abubakar Nurmagomedov, so I don't think we can hold that too much against him here in this spot. So I expect this fight to be much more competitive.
So we gotta know that Omargadzhiev moving from 185 down to 170 for this fight. Omargadzhiev fought at 170 as an amateur, but I think it was back in 2014, long time ago, that we've seen Gadzhi fight at this weight. So we got to remember that he's going to be the bigger dude here. But if we just kind of like cruise through the stats real quick, Abu's got a 1-inch reach advantage. He's got the overall experience advantage with 6 more fights, about 80 more minutes in the pro cage. He's got the striking and grappling advantages, at least at the UFC metrics, right? Gadzhi's 3 years younger. He's a switch stance fighter and has the finish stats and durability advantages and the superior UFC strength to schedule. It's a close fight. I don't really have faith in either one of these guys, to be honest with you. If you look at Gadzhi's wins pre-UFC, there's not one recognizable name there. And then you look at Abu pre-UFC, and he's fighting guys that we've heard of, but he's 16-3. He's got a really good record, but man, this guy has shit the bed a couple of times as like a big favorite Against Pavel Kush, I think he was like minus 500. He blew that fight. Against Zawada, I think he was like minus 350, minus 400. Gets triangled in the first round. So you don't want to lay juice on Abu, and you're paying that tax because of that last name. And then with Gadzhi, you got a guy who's kind of a wild man on the feet. He goes for leg locks, and I mean, that's fine against Brazilians and Americans, but you don't go for leg locks against Russians. These guys were born in leg locks. These Sambo guys have been doing leg locks since they were 8. So I don't think that that's going to work for Omargadzhiev here. I actually think probably Abu wins this fight, but I don't know how Gadzhi's going to look at 170. I don't know how this weight cut's going to go for him. I think we're missing a lot of information there. I think with Abu, you got a lot of variance. And with Gadzhi, you don't really know how he's going to look at the new weight class, and you don't really know how that pre-170 competition is going to look against a guy like Abu here. It's a big stay away from me, man. I can't find any reasons to like either of these fighters.
That's fair enough, Wheezy. That is fair enough. This is one of the sketchier fights on the card. Absolutely. It's just a spot that, you know me, I can't ignore those recency bias situations. And that's what I think we're getting here, is that everyone was so high on this guy coming off the Contender Series. As usual, everyone coming off the Contender Series is always overhyped. But getting this kind of an opponent after that kind of a letdown, the weight change is going to be a big deal. You got to wonder if he's bigger and stronger, more effective now that he's not facing such big opposition. I just think it's a dog or pass spot. No bet for me at this point in time, but if I do bet it, it's going to be on the underdog.
Yeah, I'm going to be probably staying away from this one, and proud to do it. I think that that's one of the things that I like to do the most is if I'm missing big chunks of information, or if I don't have a lot of faith in either fighter, why try to look for a reason to back one of the guys? Just stay away, move on to the next one. And it's not like we've got a shortage of spots to find in these other 13 fights. So yeah, I'm fine with staying away from this one.
That is so true, Wheezy. Superbook Sports is required to put up a line on every single one of these fights. You are not required to bet each and every one of these fights. This is a good one to just keep the money in your pocket. Last time was good fireball and popcorn. This one's bad fireball and popcorn. Maybe just chill, hang out, take a couple notes. Maybe we can use some information a little further on down the road on this one. Absolutely. All right, folks. Next up, we've got a head scratcher. We've got this new kid, Yamamoto Nishikawa, taking on Magomed Mustafaev in another absolutely bonkers matchup. So, Wheezy, I was looking into this fight, and I'll be completely honest with you. My brain told me that Magomed Mustafaev was the fake Russian. My brain told me that Magomed Mustafaev was the bro that, I'm super disappointed with, ready to fade, looking for any opportunity, maybe ducking some matches to get. No, this kid's a monster. This is the guy that's spinning back kick knocked out none other than Rafael Fiziev. No, my brain is wrong. He's just been gone so long that I forgot about him. He has not fought since 2020. Powerful body kicks, big one and done power shots, but of course he's got that Russian coast grappling, right? Once he gets on you, once he gets that body lock, you're done. Beats you up against the cage, just physically dominating, explosive when he does strike. His last 4 fights, though, not 4 fights, but 4 canceled fights, because they have been trying to get this guy in there. They've been matching him up with killers, Wheezy, Renato Moicano, Mateus Gamrot, Damir Ismagulov, Jamie Malarkey. Like, the UFC, what you're seeing from the guys they are putting him in there with is the fact that they really want to showcase him, right? He's going to be an action fighter. He's going to be a high-ticket fighter, somebody that they think they can push and use either in a loss because he's got that awesome, highlight reel, or in a win, he could be a guy they can look forward to future successes with. Got dropped in round 1 by Brad Riddell, but recovered super quickly, attacked with submissions, and then landed 8 takedowns afterward. Like, he can switch gears and go back to that Russian grappling anytime he needs to. Magomed Mustafaev is a beast. But this kid Yamamoto, 19 years old. I'm like, how do you go from trying to sign this guy against those 4 monsters to a 19-year-old Japanese prospect? He's 21-3-6. Now, a lot of draws coming from like the kickboxing style fights over there. Some of those are finish only type fights, 2-rounders, stuff like that. So the draw is not something we really need to be too worried about or pay too much attention to. 14 wins by KO, though. Pretty solid Muay Thai from what I saw. Plants and throws big right hands. He's got nice trip takedowns, kind of bullies his opponents around the cage, strong in top position, but he's fought nobody, Wheezy. Like, he's got like 2-1 records very recently, under his win column. He's been fighting 40 and 39-year-olds. Like, this is such a strange matchmaking option to me, because the UFC is very, very obviously looking to get over into those Asian markets. So this is a kid you'd think that they would want success for. And instead, they're throwing him in here against this Russian beast who they've obviously been trying to push. And he's a plus 400 underdog. Magomed Mustafaev, minus 500. Yamamoto is a plus 400 dog. Is this one of those weird ones where we all just like don't know how good Yamamoto is? Like someone's got some insider information. Mustafaev has been out for 2 years because he blew both of his knees out and never got the reconstruction surgery. Like, this is a head scratcher to me. I'm saying favorite wins, obviously, with Mustafaev, but I don't want to put my money anywhere near it because, like you said before, questions. I've got serious questions. This fight stinks to high heaven for me.
It's weird, right? So, like, Mustafaev was supposed to fight Jamie Malaki, right? So, like, that didn't happen. That's why Nishikawa is stepping in on short notice. Probably about 3 weeks' notice, maybe at this point, that Malaki pulled out of the fight. They booked Nishikawa for this one. Now, Nishikawa's got to be really, really hungry to get into the UFC, because you don't take a Magomed Mustafaev fight on short notice. Actually, you don't take a Magomed Mustafaev fight.
Period.
Yeah. I mean, if you like your brain cells, if you like your brain working properly, if you don't like to get your leg ripped up from a knee, a knee bar, or get slept from a left hook or an uppercut, that you don't wake up from for a couple of minutes. This is not the guy you want to be fighting. A 100% finish rate. A terrifying haircut. The guy's a terrifying looking human being, right? You don't really want to share a cage with this guy. But here's the problem, right? Go and watch the tape. And when you watch the tape, you say, man, Mustafaev should probably be minus 1,000 because the guy is that good, Nishikawa's solid. He's only 19 years old. He's good everywhere. He's shown some really good abilities to be able to win in the grappling exchanges. He's got good striking. He throws more volume than his opponents. He's durable. But the problem is that, he's just not on the level of Mustafaev. But here's the other problem. Mustafaev has fought once in the last 2.5 years. He's fought twice since the end of 2016. Okay? You know how many fights Nishikawa has had since Magomed has had his last 2 fights? Nishikawa's had 26 fucking fights.
That's insane.
In the amount of time, if you go back this amount of time, Nishikawa has fought 26 times, and he's like 23-1-2 in those 26 fights. And Magomed Mustafaev is 1-1 in his last 2 fights in the same amount of time. Magomed Mustafaev is 35 years old. He's 16 years older than this kid Nishikawa, and Nishikawa's just been a lot more active. This guy's stepping into the cage every 2-3 months. Magomed Mustafaev is stepping into the cage once in the last 2.5 years. We don't know if this guy's been injured, what the reasons are for this. Yeah, I've been saying he doesn't really seem to have any interest in fighting anywhere but in Abu Dhabi, So I don't know if this guy can get – I wouldn't want to give him a – if I was in charge of keeping people safe in my country, I wouldn't want Magomed Mustafaev in there, Who's giving this guy a visa, right? So it's a weird situation. It feels like a gigantic stay away. But if you're looking for a couple of reasons to lay some money on a plus 400 underdog, how about the fact that if you're 15 years younger than your opponent, you're winning about 66% of the time? How about when you've got 26 fights over a time frame where your opponent who's 16 years older than you only has 2? You're a more active fighter. You're the busier fighter. That could be a reason right there. What if Mustafaev just doesn't have anything after round 1? What if he gasses out? There's a lot of what ifs in this fight. It's a very strange one.
This one's odd. It's very odd. So, yeah, on paper, we're going to say Mustafaev gets the win. But I don't know, man. The way the kid steps in and plants and throws down with that right hand. round one KO. Like it's if you need to just like have a little bit of action, $5 on every fight or something like that, I wouldn't blame you. I wouldn't blame you at all. And you know what? I am not by any means a good DraftKings player, Wheezy. In fact, I am awful at DraftKings. I always find the bed shitter that scores me 2 points every single week. I've locked up like, you know, all but one leg left, and I'm gonna take down the whole fucking thing. And then I find the guy that gets KO'd in the first round. I would punt on this kid. Like, this is the kind of finishing upside where no one's going to play this kid. And if he gets a round one KO, it scores you the whole damn thing. Like, I'm going to be looking at playing him from that kind of a perspective. Probably no bet here. Maybe watch live, right? If he shows that he can defend the takedowns, if he rocks Mustafaev but doesn't quite get him out of there, you get a live buy low spot on Mustafaev for rounds 2 and 3, something like that. Find your live entry on this one. Don't go too hard pre-flop unless you know something that, you know, nobody else does, obviously, because this is going to be one you buckle up for. It's going to be weird.
and not only that, dude, I'm looking through all of Mustafaev's wins. Only one of them came after the 1.5 round mark. So, you know, he's got 100% finish rate, 14 out of 14 wins inside the distance. 13 of those 14 finish wins came under 1.5.
Wow. Oh, so maybe we like violence in this spot, Wheezy.
We definitely like violence in this spot. That's a violent haircut on that man. He's a violent striker. He's a violent grappler, and he's fighting a 19-year-old kid making his debut on short notice. So there's a lot of reasons to like Magomed Mustafaev in this spot.
Very true. Very true. All right, everybody. We got 140 live viewers. You're starting to pour in. Now we're getting some action going. This is my guy, Uncle Wheezy. Make sure you follow him and support him over on Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. He's part of the MMA Engine. This is Pub Sports Radio, and the show is brought to you by Pub Sports and Superbook Sports. Make sure you check them out. Give us a like, everybody. Just click the like button. Just go right down there real quick. Hit the like button for us. Next fight we want to talk to you about, Zubaira Tukhugov is taking on none other than Lucas Almeida, and this is such a good fight, Wheezy. The matchmakers at the UFC know exactly what they are doing in this spot that I've kind of had a little bit of a mixed history with, right? Like, I've tried to go against him a couple of times, but he fights so close every single time. Like, he goes out there and he is willing to die in the octagon, and he throws heavies, Wheezy. So, like, even if you outvolume this dude, he'll crack you with one, and the judges are like, oh shit, all right, he won that round. Like, it's that simple. Now, you may land 3-1 on this guy, and he'll hit you with one shot that leaves you on the other side of the cage, and he'll steal the round that way because of that style. He's gone to 4 split decisions so far in the UFC. 25-1. Really relies on his power, and honestly, Wheezy, it's the counter shots. Every time I talk about this guy, I describe him as a coiled snake because he just sits there and waits, and he'll feint at you, and as soon as you move, boom, it's a big, heavy right hand, that best weapon that he's got coming down the pipe at you. Good head movement. He's another one of these guys that really limits the offense of his opponents because they're worried about that power that's coming back at him the other direction. He can also level change when he needs to. He's not your classic Russian grappler, but he can go to the grappling if he needs to. He averages 2.46 takedowns per 15 minutes, 43% accuracy, 65% striking defense, Wheezy. That's a shocking number to me. I did not expect him to have 65% striking defense and a 100% takedown defense. His opponent, Lucas Almeida, another Dana White Contender Series prospect, lost on the Contender Series, came in and smoked Mike Trizano. I went to war with Mike Trizano that night, Wheezy. I've been looking for opportunities to back Trizano, one of those fighters that I've just been beyond wrong about recently. And Lucas Almeida was a guy that I thought was a prop to go ahead and get Mike Trizano on track. Anything but. This guy is heavy on his feet. He's got a hard 1-2 down the pipe, mixes in those leg kicks. His combos always include a leg kick on him. He'll throw the flying knees, and he carries his power late. He's got a couple of round 3 finishes. He's got a round 5 finish on his record. Yeah. He got dropped in round 1 by Trizano. I was sitting back counting my money, Wheezy. I was like, Trizano already hurt this kid and put him down. This thing's over. There's no way he's going to let this fight go. Bro, he worked his way back into that fight and then killed Mike Trizano in the 3rd round with a huge left hook. He is another guy that's just willing to die in that octagon. 6.6 significant strikes per minute. That's another tongue twister here on the night. 47% accuracy, 48% striking defense. Now, granted, that is only one fight sample size, right? So, like, we don't have a ton of stats for this kid. But the fact that he's got a 48% striking defense, I think Zuby can hurt him, Uncle Weezy. I think the way we saw him get dropped by Trezano, Zuby's got more power than Trezano does. Zuby's got better defense than Trezano does. And he makes you pay for making those overextensions on your shots on the flying knees. Even though Lucas Almeida has a 3-inch reach advantage here in this spot, I expect Zubaira Tukhugov to be able to work around that. So I'm fully expecting Zuby to get the win here. I like him. I'm probably going to be looking at the knockout prop on this one. I think violence is another good way to look at this fight because one way or the other, we probably should expect one of these guys to fall at some point in this fight. Talk to me, Weezy. Am I missing something? What do you think? Are you with me on the favorite here in this spot?
Yeah, another excellent breakdown, man. You know, I could see this fight ending in round 1. We've seen Almeida get sparked a couple of times in round 1. He's been finished there. He's also been hurt there and come back. And Zuby, his 2 finish wins at the UFC level are first round finishes against Chavez and against Aguilar. So we know that Zuby can finish fights early. And you know that this dude Lucas throws with crazy power. You remember the first round against Zellhuber? How badly he was tagging up Zellhuber, and Zellhuber was just rolling with those punches just enough that he didn't get hurt badly enough. But both these dudes throw with a ton of power in the first round. I've seen them both get touched up and land stuff in the first round. So I can see this fight ending quickly. Lucas Almeida has a 100% finish rate as a pro in his wins. So we definitely like his opportunity to be able to finish this fight inside the distance. Zuby's been finished a couple of times, but I don't think it's happened since 2012. So I think we might be able to count on Zubaira's durability here. And if you're on that Zubaira side, you want to be able to count on somebody's durability against somebody that hits as hard and is as durable as Almeida is. Because a lot of these knockout wins that Almeida's getting are coming after he's already been hurt in the fight. The dude is definitely a scrapper. This is great matchmaking.
So good.
It's so good because they're both so dangerous on the feet, but Zuby's going to be mixing in those takedowns. We've seen him do it over and over and over and over again, and we don't know how Lucas is going to be able to deal with that. On the Brazilian regional scene, he dealt with it pretty well. When he did get taken down, he got back up. But this is a different level of grappling that he's going to see from Tukhugov here than he did on the Brazilian regional scene. When it comes to the strength of schedule, that's Zubaira. He's definitely fought the much better brand of competition. Douglas Silva de Andrade, Renato Moicano, Laurent the Miracle Murphy, Hakeem Dawodu, Ricardo Ramos. I mean, these are all, really tough names to be fighting in that featherweight weight class. And a couple of these guys have even moved up. I mean, Renato is fighting at 155. Brady's saying, doesn't he have only a 40% finish rate? Yeah, he does. But at this level, he is sparking guys that are a little bit lower level. And those guys that he's not sparking are tough, competition. They're a notch higher than Lucas Almeida is. But
Weezy, I think they're feeding him. I think they're feeding him a knockout. This is a guy that's going to not do anything but come forward, throw volume, look to throw down. I think they're giving Zuby an opportunity for the knockout. I'm right there with you. And I know, Brady, exactly what you're saying. He does tend to go to split. He does tend to go the distance. Yeah. But versus this particular opponent, I think he's going to force a firefight. And I think that'll open up the opportunity for Zuby to get the KO.
Yeah, this is such a great fight. This is one of the ones that I thought I was just going to jump on that Almeida finish only prop. But I was surprised how oftentimes Zubaira is hurting people early in fights, but not finishing them. That Laurent Murphy fight, for instance, he was so close to getting Laurent out of there in the first round. And then you saw him when he hurt Aguilar, he just jumped on him. When he hurt Chavez, he just jumped on him. And there's been even the Moicano fight, he had Moicano in some problems early in that fight. So, but Moicano actually came back a little bit at the end of the first round. We saw Ramos be in trouble at the beginning of the first round. And then he lands that spinning elbow at the end of the first round, kind of made that first round close. But look, Tukhugov's having a lot of success early in fights. So, I think maybe the under 2.5, like Danny Betts mentioned, Brady was talking about the finish only prop for Lucas Almeida because that dude hits so hard and he's so durable at plus money. That's a good look as well. I hit on the finish only prop on Almeida last time against Trezano because Trezano had like a below 50% finish rate as a pro, and Lucas went into that fight with a 100% finish rate. Even though he was the dog, he was the more likely guy to finish it. So finish only prop for Almeida, under 2.5, I think is a good look, and even fight to end in round 1 might be an interesting fat plus money number where I think from what I've seen on tape, there might be some meat on that bone.
I don't mind that at all, Wheezy. And you know what? PJ in here with a pretty good comment here. Zuby does fade in round 3. He can tire out. But I talked about his opponent here having that power late. Lucas Almeida round 3 sprinkle. If you want a nice little hedge, if you think your boy is going to be up 2 rounds and trying to survive just to get the judges' scorecard on home territory, go ahead and sprinkle just a little Lucas Almeida in round 3 because you'll probably get a pretty good number for it. And that's the way he'll come back and he'll steal this fight away, is by putting a stamp on it late. So I don't mind that look whatsoever. And shout out our guy Danny Betts here in the chat. And Brady, definitely hoping you get feeling better, my guy. Sorry to hear that you're sick. Got a little bit of worse case than I do, obviously. So hoping you make a speedy recovery, but I know how bad that is to keep on getting sick on repeat. It's been a rough year for that for a lot of us, unfortunately. All right, everybody. We are moving the show right along. I'm actually surprised at the pace at which we are breaking down these fights. There's so much good stuff to talk about here. We got 144 live viewers. Thank you for hanging out. This is Pub Sports Radio, and I'm sitting here with Uncle Wheezy talking some fights, my favorite place to be in the world. All right, next up, we got Volkan Oezdemir taking on Nikita Krylov. Wheezy, I did something. I'm having a rough betting year myself this year. Everybody knows that. I've been totally open, honest, and transparent about it. It's been rough, but maybe the worst thing that I have done this entire year was I put a boatload down on Alexander Gustafsson because I think Nikita Krylov is mid-tier at best, my man. Like, that's the nicest way I can say that. And of course, folks, I'm a degenerate gambler, dad bod, guy who likes MMA, sitting here talking about throwing money on fights. I'm calling this man mid. He would beat my ass. Like, I have no questions about that whatsoever. But when it comes to UFC caliber competition, I just don't think much of Nikita Krylov. I think he's a decent striker. I think he's a decent wrestler. I think he's got an okay gas tank. I'm not expecting this guy to be challenging for a title. I'm not expecting this guy to be taking on the top 3 or the top 5 of the division. But because 205 is so thin, he's going to find himself up there at the top. That's just the way it is in this class. But I think when you get the opportunity to take advantage of him, you can. And quite frankly, folks, if you go back and you watch that fight with Gus, he swarms on Gus. Doesn't give the poor man that came out of retirement a second to think. High-level brain functionality here from Nikita Krylov. That's a big brain game plan to take on a guy who's coming out of retirement and just swarm him from the opening bell. Got to give him props for that game plan. But when he didn't get him out of there right away, you immediately saw Gus having some success. Gus got the underhook and pinned him up against the fence. Gus was able to tag him and then get out of range. Gus caught the kick. And then he died to this weird little shovel uppercut inside because Gus is completely shot. Like, skill for skill, Gus is better than Nikita Krylov essentially everywhere. And that's what I was banking on. I was just hoping the chin wasn't completely gone. Turns out it is. Volkan Oezdemir, unfortunately, kind of in a similar position, right? This guy's not old by any stretch of the imagination, Wheezy. He's a younger-ish, 33 years old. So his chin is not shot, but he's taken on some power punchers that have taken a little piece of his life away from him. He got KO'd viciously by Jiri Prokasia, and he got rear naked choked out by Anthony Smith. He did get pounded out by DC, but look at these losses. Like, these are literally the champions, the future champion, like, guys that challenged for a title. Like, he's been fighting everybody, the absolute best of the best. So even though he's made a couple of mistakes, Volkan Oezdemir has been hanging around the top of this division the entire run he's had in the UFC. Now, the No Time nickname, I harp on this every time, Wheezy. He is not No Time. Like, he meme KO'd a couple guys that have no chin, and he got the nickname. Steer into it, make your money, you go get it, Volkan. I love it. Do what you got to do. But we can't expect this guy to be some brutal, vicious power puncher 24/7. In fact, he's more of a technical boxer, decision machine type of fighter when he fights a better level of competition. So I think what we're going to get here is a mix in the takedowns, 15-minute kickboxing fight. Nikita Krylov is probably going to try to go to the grappling. Volkan Oezdemir has an 86% takedown defense rating. He's got a 56% striking defense. Nikita Krylov, on the other hand, has a 54% takedown defense rating. And your guy, Volkan Oezdemir, has been training at MMA All-Stars with beasts like Khamzat Chimaev. I wouldn't be shocked if Volkan mixes in a couple of takedowns here in this fight, Wheezy. I think both of these guys are going to be respectful of one another and their skill sets. And I fully expect this to be a competitive fight. And I'm leaning with sticking with my gut on the fact that I don't think Nikita Krylov is all that special. Volkan Oezdemir is a plus 150 underdog. Nikita Krylov is a minus 170 favorite. Again, I'm kind of leaning dog or pass here. And that's just kind of my personal bias massively against Nikita Krylov. Am I insane on this one, Wheezy? Should I be turning things around and finally giving Nikita Krylov his dues? Or am I on the right track with this guy and maybe we can make some money fading him?
Well, I'll tell you something. If you want my tip on how you bet Nikita Krylov fights is you don't pick a side, you pick the under, right? Nikita Krylov has got some ridiculous finish numbers as a professional fighter. Let me get to my prop template here and give you some of these numbers to get you an idea of why I've been so successful betting on Nikita Krylov fights. 37 professional fights for Nikita Krylov. Guess how many have finished inside the distance? 34. You're talking about a 91.89% finish rate for and against as a professional fighter. And then if you look at the stats within the matchups that he's had at the UFC level, Krylov is in extremely high volume fights. He throws 8 significant strike attempts per minute. His opponents are only throwing 4.3. So he's drowning his opponents in volume. He's attempted 28 takedowns in 16 fights, gotten 10 of them. He's got 36.72% control time for. He's allowing 32.22% control time against. So Nikita brings a pace that's very, very difficult to keep. Whether you're winning or losing the fight, usually somebody's going to be out of there before the 15-minute mark because of all the ups and downs with the grappling, because of the amount of volume that's thrown on the feet. Krylov landing a knockdown on over 1% of the significant strikes that he's landing. That's 5 knockdowns in 16 fights, and he's been knocked down once in 16 fights. So I have really been successful betting unders in Krylov fights. I got 2.5 units on the under 2.5. I got it at minus 126, but it's currently sitting at minus 145. Even at minus 145, that's right on with the divisional under 2.5 rate when you look at the long-term benchmark for the 205-pound weight class in 3-round fights. Then fighter finish rates. So these guys have been under they've been under 2.5 rounds in 66.66% of their fights. So you're talking about a sample size of 27 fights. 18 of them at the UFC level have been under 2.5. That's 66%. We're only paying 59% on the line. Why would we be getting a break on the implied probability of an underline in a Nikita Krylov fight who's finishing at 92% rate? Why would they give us that break? There's no reason to sit here and think, oh, you know, I think maybe Oezdemir stops the takedowns, lands the bigger shots on the feet, or maybe Krylov just kind of wears down Oezdemir over a while and finishes him late. How about somebody's getting finished under 2.5 rounds and we just cash that ticket? Because that's the kind of style that Nikita Krylov always brings.
You might have just saved me from myself, Wheezy. I do like that option. That's a great read there in that spot, and especially with someone like Volkan coming off of a 15-minute decision over a known finisher in Paul Craig, showing that nice paced, measured, slow type of methodical action. Yeah, maybe we see the old version come back on this one. Maybe Nikita Krylov forces him to fight for his life and we get a finish one way or the other instead of picking a side. Let's just pick violence. I like it, Wheezy. I like it a lot. And PJ in the chat here with an awesome comment. Funny how Johnny Walker was one of those. I know, right? Like this is the madness of MMA. This is the sport that we love, and for some odd reason decide to gamble on. You've got guys that go under constantly. Anytime that happens, it's going over. Like there's nothing you can do. When you've got two guys that are going to win or lose in round one consistently, the over hits.
It's wild, man. I mean, if I'm so glad I didn't have a ticket on that fight, because if it would have went over and I had an under in a Krylov Johnny Walker fight, I might have been swinging from a rope in my closet. Like I would not have taken that well at all, losing that bet. So, but this one, you're only paying minus 145. I feel like it should be like minus 220, to be honest with you. Yeah. So great line there. I think that's the way to play it. But if you've got a lean on how you think that this fight goes, it's one of the more closely lined fights on the card. There's reasons to like both fighters.
You can make an argument. You can absolutely make an argument for either side. And we got to like pour one out real quick for those poor saps that had the under 1.5 in the Dusko and Jordan Wright fight on Saturday. I talked about that one that it opened up at minus 135 that I'm like, it got steamed all the way up to like minus 250 for an under 1.5. And like I mentioned, anytime you see those violence, no-brainers, they just sail over somehow for some reason, especially the 1.5s. So for any of you poor souls who did bite on that under 1.5, I feel for you because there were more than enough opportunities for you to cash that ticket. And I'm sorry that it didn't go your way because it very well probably should have.
Yeah, absolutely. Jordan took a lot more punches than he had in previous fights, and that wound up getting it over that 7.5 minute mark. I can't believe it went over. I would have been one of the saps getting rinsed on that one, but my books didn't open that line until after it got completely steamed. And because I have this prop template, because I use these analytics, just because I think a line is going to, definitely cash, it doesn't mean I'm willing to lay minus 800 on it or minus 500 on it. And sometimes, the value is just gone. So if it, an under 2 or under 1.5 at minus 225 or minus 230, and everything has to go right, and you might as well just wait till the next one.
I hear you. Absolutely agreed, Uncle Weezy. All right, folks, let's go. Next up, we have got Makhmud Muradov taking on Caio Borralho. This is a name that y'all heard a little bit earlier in the evening. We talked about Caio. He is the talk of the town. We talk about these contender series fighters. There's crops, right? Like you've got the bottom level slave labor guys that they'll get their win on the contender series. They'll get thrown to the wolves and they'll buff up, 2 or 3 records in the UFC, and then they get the boot. Then you got guys like Caio, who you're like, oh, okay, like you may have actually found something here with this one. Someone who everybody notices, we've got the respect for, the skill set is all there. Probably going to be a fighter that we see in the UFC for a very, very long time. 12-1 karate style striking, powerful snapping kicks. He's got that hard teep straight up the middle, and he just explodes into range on people, Wheezy. He does have a little bit of tall man defense, but that's the karate style, right? The lean back thing where you're trying to get your head just out of range. That's something that we see with them a lot, but he's got slick grappling. I mean, well-timed takedowns, sweeps and reversals. He's got that heavy top position, a tight squeeze. The rear naked choke is on point. He does make a couple of questionable decisions, though. We saw him in like the Petrosyan fight where he sat back on a guillotine and gave Petrosyan top position. And then he let go of the body lock and rolled down for an ankle where he lost that fight. Very close split decision. Could have easily gone his way if maybe he had just stayed in top position in those 2 scrambles. So you got to wonder, is that a young fighter seasoning thing? Maybe he'll turn that around, or maybe that's something that we're going to see more of, and we got to worry about his fight IQ and backing him against future UFC caliber opponents. This is a big step up in competition for Caio. He's taken on Makhmud Muradov, Team Money Mayweather, the one guy that's sponsored by Floyd Mayweather. He had GM3 hurt so bad in that last fight, Wheezy.
Yeah.
So bad. And absolutely destroyed himself, gassed himself out trying to get that finish. He has unreal nuclear power in that right hand of his. And he sits down and plants it and throws it from so far away with everything he's got, fight ending intention every single time he throws that right hand, whipping body kicks. Sometimes he'll get a little wild in there. Sometimes he gets a little loosey-goosey, but he's got good hips, good balance. If you take him down, he's got very good urgency to get back up to his feet. The reason I think GM3 was able to have the success that he did, quite frankly, Weezy, I think Makhmud looked right on past him. I think Makhmud walked into that fight saying, I'm going to knock this dude out. And he tried to do that for 5 minutes. And when it didn't happen, he went, oh, shit, I'm tired.
Yeah.
Fighters that run out of gas are not the same as fighters with gas. I fully expect Makhmud Muradov to come in reinvigorated for this fight, focused, respectful of his opponent. And I see a lot of love out there for Caio Borralho. The fact is there's a huge difference between Armen Petrosyan and Makhmud Muradov, Weezy, and that difference is the takedown defense. I talked about Armen Petrosyan. I talked about how he gives up takedowns willy-nilly. He has no care to stop the takedowns. He just focuses on the get-up game. Makhmud Muradov's got an 80% takedown defense rating. He's got a 61% striking defense. Even though he ate those left hands a couple of times from GM3, generally speaking, he's a very solid defensive striker. And honestly, I love this guy's round 3 sprinkles. He's got 5 round 3 finishes because outside of that, I think the GM3 fight was a fluke, Weezy. I think that was a throwaway statistic because you look at everything else this guy's done and it's not like that. He methodically picks these people apart. He hits them, he hurts them, he works them, drains the gas tank, drains the cardio, and then ends them in the 3rd round of those fights. That's how this guy fights. And for some reason, he went for broke in round 1 against GM3 instead. I'm expecting the old Makhmud Muradov here in this fight. I am very tempted to fade the step up for Caio Borralho. I'm very tempted to fade the hype on Caio and take the buy low spot on Makhmud Muradov at plus 180 and even sprinkle that round 3 finish. I think a decision probably more likely because I absolutely respect what Caio brings to the table. But you can't argue with the fact that Caio got tired in that Petrosyan fight, was shooting for his life at the end of that 3rd round. And Makhmud has a tendency to get stronger and end people the deeper those fights goes. I think I like the dog again here, Weezy.
So I saw Makhmud at plus 230 about 2 weeks ago. And, I was hip deep in tape for like other cards and I never got to taping it. But I'm a huge Caio Borralho fan. I really am. I love fighters that have got great fight IQ, that will take the fight to where their opponent is least comfortable, and that they make good decisions in the cage and have the skill set in order to be able to lean on all those different skills that they've accumulated and bring them out at the appropriate time. There's nothing more frustrating than a wrestler who falls in love with his hands, or a great grappler who, like Mackenzie Dern, who couldn't get a takedown to save her life. I think that these are both guys who do what they do extremely well, and it might be the most fascinating fight on the card that isn't Charles Oliveira versus Makhachev. It's a brilliant striker versus grappler matchup here. With Muradov, you've got a guy with 80% takedown defense who prefers to stay standing. In over a 4-fight UFC sample size that almost spans 50 minutes, this guy is spending 93% of his UFC cage time at striking distance, where he's best. Then you look at a guy like Borralho, and he is spending 67% of his UFC cage time of almost 46 minutes in control time positions for or against. That means he's only spending 33% of the time at striking range, where he's probably least comfortable, but he is a very good striker as well. So when I watch tape on Muradov, the fact that this fight is in the big cage is very important, okay? Because Muradov moves laterally in beautiful ways. His feet are always moving. He's always up on the balls of his feet. He's dancing. He's moving laterally. Those feet only stay still when he's throwing. And then as soon as he's done throwing, he's moving. He's cutting angles. His footwork is absolutely gorgeous to watch. And then with Borralho, you know that this dude's going to wrestle, and you know that this dude is not going to let Makhmud just dance around and stay on the outside and pick him apart. So I think it's just one of the highest level matchups on the card. You got one of the best middleweight strikers and in Muradov. And, you look at the 4 fights, D. Chirico, Trevor Smith, Andrew Sanchez, Gerald Mearshart. Those guys are all grapplers. It's not like he's out there picking apart other guys who don't shoot takedowns. Trevor Smith is constantly shooting takedowns. He couldn't even find places to initiate the wrestling in that fight. That's how great the footwork was from Muradov. Sanchez, I think, took him down once, and I think on that takedown he got less than 5 seconds of control time. That's how quick Muradov bounced back to his feet. So Caio's got his work cut out for him here. If I could go back in time and get that plus 230, I'd lay a unit on it for sure on Muradov, because we haven't seen Caio face a striker of this quality yet, and a striker that's been very good against other grapplers at keeping the fight at striking range 93% of the time. Let me tell you something, man. If this fight stays at striking range for 93% of the time that these guys are in the cage, you should be max betting Makhmud Muradov at plus money. Okay? So keep in mind that he's been very good at keeping fights standing. And it wasn't until Meerschaert pulled that Homer Simpson job on him, which is exactly what happened. Muradov probably would have gotten 90% of the middleweight division out of there with those strikes that he was landing on Meerschaert. But Meerschaert got through it. Muradov gassed out. And then when Meerschaert went for those takedowns in the second round, Muradov was more tired than he was used to being, and he wound up giving up the rear naked choke. And I think that this fight does finish inside the distance. I think either Muradov lands big shots on the feet or Caio does get this thing to the ground and gets a submission. But I'm liking violence here more than I'm liking taking either side. But if you put a gun to my head and said you got to take somebody on the money line, it would have to be Muradov at plus money.
Okay. I like it, Uncle Weezy. And this is one of those ones where I think there's just too much. There's just too much there for me that I can't ignore all of these situations. I can't ignore all the pieces kind of coming together. And on top of that, you got to think about the home field advantage. You know, Muradov's going to be the guy that's going to get the rub. If this is a close fight, if this is a tight decision, if this goes to a split, y'all really think Perallo's getting his hand raised in Abu Dhabi? I don't know. Like, that's the kind of back pocket insurance. We're dealing with hometown advantage here. The UFC's back on the road. So just one more little push to get me over on the dog side. I think I'm on the dog. I think I like the dog. And I think we're going to get that round 3 sprinkle in there at some point, Wheezy.
Yeah, those I've hit on Muradov round 3. I think I got him in the Sanchez fight at plus 1,400 round 3. So you never forget when you hit those. I've hit him with Juliana Pena. I've hit him with Grant Dawson. And I've hit him with Makhmud Muradov, man. And there's nothing better than hitting a third round prop.
Well, and Weezy, it's first off, I don't know if you guys can hear that. My boy Link is going nuts. Dogs are barking here, folks. On top of it, it's like GM3 playing the sub prop. You just have to. Like, it doesn't matter if he's a 3-1 underdog. The sub is 9-1, and it's like, it's Gerald fucking Meerschaert. That's what you do. So yeah, Makhmud Muradov is a round 3 guy. So I'm probably gonna have a taste of that round 3 prop coming in.
Let me say one more thing about this, Clint.
Have at it, Weezy.
Makhmud Muradov was minus 575 against Gerald Meerschaert. So just keep that in mind. You could look at that as just an anomaly, a throwaway fight. The guy was minus 575 against Gerald Meerschaert, a guy who's got something like 27 career wins by submission. So this is, if you look at it through that lens, you're getting Muradov at a huge discount here. But he's facing a very smart and very well-rounded fighter in Caio.
You know, Weezy, that reminds me of a situation. I'm having trouble putting my finger on it. I feel like just recently we saw a guy that came in as a huge underdog that was lined as a minus 400 favorite and didn't live up to that new line because of a very, very recent fight situation.
Are we talking about my guy Victor Henry that cost me 6 units? And I would have been up 4 units, but wound up 2 I wound up down 2 on a card that I had 2 bets on. Oh my God, Victor Henry! Victor Henry made the list. There are 2 names on that list: Victor Henry and Abdul Razak Al Hassan, and that list is fighters that I will never bet on or against ever again. I just retire. You beat Ronnie Barcelos and then you lose to a 40-year-old Rafael Assunção. You are completely unpredictable, and there's no point trying to figure out what's going to happen next.
I hear you, Easy. And that's it just, that shows the recency bias that I was talking about, the angle that I like to attack. I think we've got massive recency bias here on a kid coming off the Contender Series, taking a big leap up in competition, going against a guy that you had to pay minus 500 for the last time out. We're getting plus money on that kid now. So even if this thing looks like a minus 110, even if this thing goes to a split decision, I think we're getting line value on Makhmud Muradov. Folks, I'm not a professional gambler. I do not make my living betting against the bookies. I'm just a degenerate who likes to throw some cash around. These bets, these opinions are my own. They're not financial advice. You do what you want to do. Pull up your big boy pants and make your bets wherever you feel like there's action. I'm just telling you what I'm betting. I'm going to bet Makhmud Muradov on Saturday.
I think it's a good spot, man, and it's an even better fight. If you love these striker versus grappler matchups, they're the beautiful stylistic matchups. It's one of the great things about MMA. This fight, I mean, this card is amazing, and this fight isn't even on the main card.
I can't believe it. I cannot. Yeah. We got so much action to get to, everybody. Well, let's pause real quick to hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, people of all races, ages, and genders, welcome back to the Die Hard MMA podcast. I'm your host, your boy Clint, joined by none other than Uncle Weezy. And we're talking about UFC 280. Do us a favor, smash that like button. We've got the Utes up 2-0 on the Maple Leafs, sitting on a plus 425 money line for your boy on a Monday night. Let's go! Bring it home, Coyotes. All right, everybody. Next fight up. We got Belal. Remember the name Muhammad, the one man who gets a pass for wearing sunglasses at the UFC weigh-ins for me, taking on Sean Brady. What a fight. Now, we have been getting striker versus grappler matchups all night, Wheezy. We've been getting striker versus striker matchups. We got a grappler versus grappler matchup coming in here on this one. Belal, the man, is 21-3, taking on 15-0 undefeated Sean Brady. Belal 2.0 lately, Wheezy. He has looked absolutely phenomenal, and let me just give the man his dues. Belal Muhammad ate the head kick that Kamaru Usman could not. Kamaru Usman lost his strap to Leon Edwards, and Belal ate that thing for breakfast and then started to turn up the heat. You cannot convince me otherwise. Belal was going to win that fight. Leon Edwards took round one. If the eye poke hadn't ended it, I think Belal mauls him for the remainder of that fight, Wheezy, if I'm being honest. He had his shot to get him out of there and missed it. I think Belal is a complete monster right now. His grappling's on another level. His boxing is smart. He's got that GSP high IQ approach. He finds that one hole in your game and abuses it. He can strike. He can move. He can box. But if he can take you down and smother you, he's going to do that. He doesn't need a finish. He doesn't need to be flashy. He just wins. This man is phenomenal. But Sean Brady, oh, I can hear Lou typing away on the keyboard already, Wheezy. He's a Henzo Philly Gracie guy. So naturally, I want to bet against him. Like, I don't know what it is, but these Henzo Gracie guys, like, I always end up on the other side of them. I literally have the gym and the camp circled as, like, these guys are badasses. They're at a great camp. I need to be betting on them. And then they get matchups that I'm like, no, I like the others. Like, what the hell? I don't know what the built-in bias is there. I don't know why I keep ending up on the other side. And then I bet against the Flyers the other night, and they pulled off a massive, I don't know. I just hate Philly, apparently. So, Wheezy, I don't know what to do in this spot. Because Sean Brady, you know, there have been some questions about his cardio. There's been some questions about, you know, how deep he can go, but he's so physically strong. He's got the craziest back I've ever seen on a human being before. And apparently, shout out my guy James Lynch, the man doing all the high-level fighter interviews and shit. I guess Sean Brady had an issue with his nose, and he had to actually get it like surgically repaired recently, and that opened up his airways. He's been setting records at the UFC PI for his cardio. And that is something that just like jumped out at me, that I was not expecting to hear that kind of news. If you've got a fighter who should have good cardio, who we've seen have good cardio, but they've had something holding them back this entire time, and now all of a sudden he can breathe properly, like, I kind of expect more from Sean Brady than what we've seen, and what we've seen already has been damn good. So I really don't want to line up and bet against Sean Brady yet again. But at the same time, I almost feel like this is a little disrespectful to Bilal. Brady's a minus 140 favorite. He opened up plus 190, Wheezy. God bless you if you are out there with a Sean Brady plus money ticket. That sounds fantastic. Like, I would love to bet on Brady at plus money, but I also have a real hard time lining him the favorite here, Wheezy. Talk to me about this matchup. What do you see taking place here on this one? And Mushroom, get out of here. Always giving me shit.
Yeah, these Philly guys, they take everything personally, man. You know, you don't get to say anything about their teams, about their fighters. They're going to take it personally, and they're going to remember that. So, you know, you got to be very careful when you got these Philly guy names in your mouth. And I went out on a limb, and I took Damon Jackson over Pat Sabatini at a plus 190 number there. And I also cashed a plus 205 on the under 2.5 in that fight, because the lines were mispriced. And that's what we need to do as gamblers, is find these areas where, you know, the lines, the public sentiment has went too far in one direction, and we need to bring it back to where it should be. But there's reasons to love both of these fighters. Like, in my opinion, Bilal Muhammad, one of the smartest fighters in the UFC, and those are the archetype of guys that you have to bet on. You always want to see the guy making the decision that makes him the more comfortable than his opponent, and then take the fight to that area. And Bilal is famous for doing that. You know, if he wants to keep the fight standing, he'll stuff 23 takedowns against, you know, Demian Maia. If he wants to mix in that grappling, he'll do what he did against Luque and land a takedown in every single round of the fight, reminding you at all times, hey, if you're comfortable on the feet, don't get too comfortable there, because I'm gonna take you down. So Bilal is always gonna keep that fight wherever he thinks he has the best chance. And Brady's shown some holes. Frankly, the striking is just okay. And this is a situation where we just saw Bilal Muhammad winning minutes on the feet against Vicente Luque, you know, and somebody that's got as much power as Luque, for Bilal to do what he did, dancing, moving laterally, trading shots with him. Those were very even exchanges. And I believe that if Bilal can have that kind of success on the feet against Luque, that he can have even better success on the feet against somebody like Sean Brady. But here's the problem, right? You look at the guys that Muhammad has fought, and you go back, right, all the way back to them. There's 15 fights to look at the UFC level. Not really fighting wrestlers, is he? You know, you got Demian Maia. He stuffed a bunch of takedowns from Demian Maia. But if I go to the stats here and I look at guys, how many, you know, because the aggregate number is that Bilal Muhammad has stuffed 33 out of 36 takedowns. But if you take out the Demian Maia fight, his takedown defense is 2 of 15. So he's only had 15 takedowns shot against him in 14 fights that weren't the Maia fight. So everybody who's out there saying Bilal Muhammad has over 90% takedown defense, and because of that, therefore, this fight stays standing, that's not how this works. Sean Brady gets you backed up against that cage and gets his arms locked behind your ass. You're going for a ride.
You're going for a ride.
That, whether you're Bilal Muhammad or anybody else, you're going for a ride, and you're going to have a really hard time getting that slab of a human being off of you, because his grappling is next level. But Bilal is smart. He moves laterally very well. His footwork is not quite Makhmud Muradov level on the feet, but god damn, when he wants to keep that fight standing, he is very difficult to take down. There have been 3 guys who have taken him down. Demian Maia got him down once, and I'll tell you who the other 2 are after I highlight these bars and scroll back to the other side of the cage. All right, Takashi Sato took him down, which is wild, right? And then
that's
Jordan
one of those
Meehan.
what the hell, like never saw it coming type of takedowns. That's the reason he got it, is because nobody saw it coming.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, the funny thing is, in the 3 fights that Belal has been taken down in, he's 3-0 in those fights. He's never lost. So it's, you know, it's a fascinating fight. Belal's always getting takedowns. The only fight he got out-controlled in his entire UFC career was the Demian Maia fight. Every single other fight, he has had more seconds of control time than his opponents, other than the Vicente Luque fight where Luque had 3 seconds of control time to 0 for Belal because he got knocked down. And the other fight was he got out-controlled by like 30 seconds by Jeff Neal, 23 seconds to 57 seconds. So it's going to be difficult for Brady to do what he needs to do in order for us to feel confidently in juice, which is get takedowns and dominate in the grappling exchanges. God, this is another extremely high-level fight, not even on the main card. But I got to tell you something, man. If you tell me who you betting on here, it's Belal Muhammad. But I like the over 2.5 as well. It's juiced. It's expensive, but it's not overpriced for the way I see this fight going. The stylistic matchups, the data tells us bet that over 2.5 at its current price. But I think Belal Muhammad wins this fight by decision. Plus 195 right now for Belal by decision, I believe, is better than getting plus 120 on the money line. I don't think Belal Muhammad is finishing Sean Brady. If he did, I would be shocked. But Belal at plus 195 is probably my best bet. And I also like the juiced over 2.5.
Okay. I like the Belal side here, Wheezy. At the risk of incurring Mushroom's wrath, I do think there's value on the underdog because, again, he opened up as a big favorite. The steam brought this fight down. I think it's closer to a pick 'em myself, but I still think Belal should be the favorite. I still absolutely believe he should be favored. And as much as I like Brady, as much as I believe in the future that Brady brings, he's still just ever so slightly untested. Like, you know, you look at that last fight where he out grappled Michael Chiesa. Chiesa is notorious for having awful takedown defense and then going to his jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? Belal does not give up those takedowns nearly as easily. It's going to be much more of a wrestling match. And then Jake Matthews, as much as I love Jake Matthews, I cashed in on the kid very recently. He's a striker. He's a guy that you can take down. He's a guy you can smother. And then Christian Aguilera, Ismail Nardiev, Court McGee. Like, there's a lot of questions left to be answered about Brady. I'm not sure he's ready to be a favorite here over Belal personally. I think the over makes a ton of sense. If anybody's finishing, I think it's Brady, quite frankly. I think Brady's the one that's going to be able to find a finish more than Belal. Belal by decision, death taxes, Belal by decision. I think that's the way to go.
Yeah. Agreed. It's such a great fight, though, man. I can't. You can't blame anybody for having a read on either side because these are 2 incredibly talented mixed martial artists.
Completely agree. Can't wait to see who comes out on top here. And I won't be surprised at all if it's Belal and he takes that microphone and cuts another promo because that guy deserves his crack. And honestly, I want to see him rematch Leon Edwards. That's the fight that I want to see because of the way that first one ended. If they could run that thing back, I'd be all about it.
And he's going to be one step closer to getting that rematch if he wins this fight because Brady's super high level. So can't wait for this one, man.
It's going to be awesome. All right, everybody. You know the drill. Hit the like button. Next up, Katlyn Chookagian taking a Manon Fiorot, the woman who holds most badass topology profile pick. You know, right now you're not seeing the good one. Here's the good one. The good one is where she's just stomping her way to the UFC cage. I absolutely love that picture of Manon Fiorot. You know, Weezy, the best way I think that I can describe these fighters is you've got Katlyn Chookagian, the gatekeeper of the division, high volume. You know, she's got like a 36% striking accuracy, but the key is she makes so much noise that she sells the judges that she's actually landing more than she really is on her strikes. And you know that meme where you've got the upgrade button? Like, you just hit the upgrade button. That gets you Manon Fiorot. Like, she is exactly like Caitlin Chookagian with the footwork, the way she plays the outside, the karate, the side kicks, the solid grappling, the judo throws. She's got it all. And then she's got muscle on her frame. Yeah. That's the big thing with Caitlin Chookagian, in my opinion, Wheezy, is that she just gets beasted by these other girls. The couple of times that she's lost, it's because she gets mauled by people. And she got away with one in her last fight. Won that split decision over Amanda Ribas, where she got head and arm thrown like 6 times in that fight. She had no answer for it. And quite frankly, I think Amanda won that fight. I had a bet on Caitlin Chookagian, and I think Amanda won that fight. Man, it's tough. It's really tough because Caitlin Chookagian, it's death, taxes, and Chookagian by decision. Every time. She chooks everybody. I can go back through this list and tell you probably about 6 fights that she probably lost but gets a unanimous decision win because she just knows how to sell the judges on her activity. If you bet against Caitlin Chookagian, you're asking for it. I'm warning you right here, right now. Yeah. If you bet against Caitlin Chookagian, be ready for the disappointment. Be ready for the split decision. Be ready for Caitlin Chookagian to get her hand raised. That said, I think Manon Fiorot kicks her ass. The couple times that Caitlin Chookagian has been finished, it's been by these big power punchers. Valentina Shevchenko with the crucifix, a position that Fiorot can get her down to. Jessica Andrade, the hook to the body, that side kick that she throws to the body, I think is going to be very, very impactful. Hit her from Maya with that much. And you could tell by the end of the fight, those things start to add up, man. Your body is not meant to take that many side kicks with that heel digging into your abs and your ribs. I'm tempting fate here, Wheezy, but I think I like Manon Fiorot. And she is a minus 210 favorite. That bumped up 10 cents since the start of the show. She was a minus 200 when we came in, checking the Superbook sports lines over here. Caitlin Chookagian, a plus 180 underdog. Folks, if you want to play Chookagian, if you want to play Chookagian by decision, if you want to play Chookagian by split, I will never argue with you. It hits too many damn times. You've got every reason to go back to the well with that bet. I think Fiorot is the future. I think she's going to be a title challenger. I think she is everything that Caitlin Chookagian wishes she could be. She's got the higher ceiling. She's more powerful, and I think that's going to be the difference maker.
Yeah, look, Chookagian's, bigger, taller, longer, more experienced, fought the better brand of competition. But Manon just does everything that Chook does. Manon does it a little bit better, and she does it with a lot more flair and with a lot more power. That's why this line is where it is. I think maybe what could be the best bet of the year, a bet that literally has 0% chance to lose, which you can never say in this game, which means now that it will, but Manon Fiorot finish only prop. I mean, could you see Caitlin Chookagian finishing Manon Fiorot on Saturday?
Never.
I mean, never, right? I mean, it's not going to happen. I don't think Ngannou could finish Manon Fiorot. That's how. Now, of course, I'm being, facetious there, but look, Manon's mean. My favorite Manon highlight, I think if you were on the Locks, what do you call it? The tape index, right? If you go back and there's an amateur Muay Thai fight for Fiorot that you can watch, right? And she comes out to Biggie. She's wearing an Allen Iverson jersey. And when she's making that walk, I'm like, holy shit, is she going to kill this girl? And you see her, she just goes in there. She melts this broad in like 30 seconds, and it's not even close. And you realize this girl's special. She's very special. And one of the things that I think people don't realize about Manon is how good her grappling is. It's really, really, really good. She's the more likely woman to get a takedown here. She's the more likely woman to grab ground and pound and land big shots on the ground. She's the more likely woman to grind and win minutes up against that cage because she's stronger and she's meaner. Chookagian needs that distance, right? But as good as Chookagian is at distance management, it's Manon who's throwing those kicks, and your leg reach is bigger than your arm reach. So she's going to be able to probably be the better person in the distance management. I think she's the more likely person to grapple successfully. Chookagian has attempted 26 takedowns at the UFC level. She's only gotten 4 of them. That is a 15% takedown percentage, and she's controlling her opponents less than 8% of her UFC cage time. For Manon, it's almost 19%, and she's gotten 6 of her 12 takedowns and stuffed 5 of 6 against her. So I think she's got the better takedown defense. I think she's got the better takedown offense. I think she's stronger. I think she's meaner. And I think in this case, she might even be the better fighter at distance management and point fighting from the outside. I think she's way more likely to finish here. But like you said, and I'm going to repeat it because what you said is so important, don't be fucking surprised if the judges take this from you. If this thing goes the full 15 and you laid minus 220 on, look, Bootsy's trying to tell you too.
Bootsy, get out of here.
These judges, they like Katlyn Chookagian, and she comes out on the other end winning these fights that she shouldn't have won. I had Chookagian by decision over Hebas. Yeah, she lost that fight, dude. In my opinion, she lost that fight, and I cashed a ticket on it. I'm willing to say it. I think she lost that fight, but Hebas is special too. Anyway, I love Manon here. I'm going to be looking to see where that finish only opens, and if I can get it better than minus 300, I'm max betting it. And yeah, I think Firo gets the job done.
I like that finish only shout out, Wheezy. I really, really do. And it's funny you mentioned the grappling because not only did Katlyn Chookagian get promoted to BJJ black belt between camps here for this one, congratulations to her. She brought in Gregor the Gift Gillespie to go ahead and work on her wrestling. I think the grappling is the game plan, Wheezy. I think she fully intends to come out here and try and wrestle Manon Fiorot. But you know what happens when you try to wrestle Manon Fiorot is very similar to my read on my girl Sam Hughes, is that you don't have an answer for the hip throw. When you get in tight on those hips and you're looking to drag someone, take them down, these ladies will just kick that hip out and send you for a ride. And we saw that happen already. Both Manon Fiorot has thrown that hip toss, and we've seen Katlyn be a victim to it. So I think that Manon Fiorot is going to end up in top position, and we're going to get a ground and pound TKO, quite frankly, Wheezy. I think that looking at the KO prop for Manon to get a decisive finish this week is something that I'm going to have a degenerate little piece of. I don't mind laying the wood. I wouldn't parlay just because of what we've talked about with Chookagian being who she is. Don't parlay Manon Fiorot. Just you don't want to risk your other good bet going down in flames because all aboard the Chook train. But I do think that she's the side. I do think she's the bet. I am predicting her to get the win, and I am predicting her to get the finish. I will shout out none other than the Invicta FC atomweight champion, Jillian DeCourcy. Jillian, if you're listening to the show, I know Katlyn Chookagian's a teammate, a training partner of yours, and I apologize. I am so sorry. I wish I could back her here. I just can't. By the way, folks, if you watch Invicta FC, if you're a fight fan, even if you're just someone who hangs out on Twitter, go follow Jillian. She's freaking cool, and she's a complete badass. Love Jillian DeCourcy. Shout out to her. Wheezy, seems like we agree here, and I do like the finish-only prop. That's an excellent shout-out for people that have access to that market.
Absolutely. It hasn't opened yet, but we'll see where it is when it opens.
Folks, I'm sweating here. We're down to the nitty-gritty. Just a couple minutes here. Coyotes are up 2-0. I got plus 425 riding on it. Let's go, Yotes. All right. Moving on. We got the big guns coming up here now, Wheezy. Beneil Dariush is taking on Mateusz Gamrot. What a fight. Now, I say that, but I also have a very strong opinion about this fight. Benny is 21-4-1. You've got Mateusz, who is 21-1. Mateusz Gamrot, completely disrespected by everybody, myself included, taking on Armen Tsarukyan in his last fight. Man, I truly believe Armen Tsarukyan is the future of this weight class. I really do. Kid is so young, so talented, such a good wrestler. But holy hell, he got everything he could handle from Mateusz Gamrot. Now, that decision could potentially have gone the other way. I think you can argue for Tsarukyan winning that fight. However, he got his hand raised, and now he's back on the warpath. Benny is a southpaw fighter coming off of the win over Tony Ferguson in 2021, where he didn't even have to really expend any effort, right? Tony's a guy that you can take down at will, just kind of grind it out on top of him. Really forces you to brawl. He's a grappler who has learned how to strike and just kind of keeps constant pressure on people, walks them down, forces them to throw, and he's melted a couple people, Wheezy. You know, you think about that Drakkar close fight where Drakkar gassed himself out trying to get the finish, opened himself up. It looked like Benny was on wobbly legs from the body triangle, and then he nuked him to put him down. Benny's turned into a real fun, super high-level fighter, and some shit's going down with my internet right now. I really hope you guys can hear me. I'm going to pause the breakdown for just a second. Can you hear me okay, Wheezy?
I can, yes.
Okay.
Now
the little wheel showing me that my internet was dying on me.
Okay.
Damn it. All right. Hopefully this internet issue sorts itself out. Sorry, folks. Basically, Benny is a guy that, quite frankly, Wheezy, I'm not sold on. You know, he puts himself in positions to be finished. We've seen him get nuked. Alexander Hernandez flooded the scene because he took this guy out in round 1. Like, that's the way he fights. And I love it. This is going to be a barn burner. It's going to be a brawl. But I can't get over just how good Mateusz Gamrot is, man. Full camp over at ATT for this one, coming off that massive win just 4 months ago. The way he chains his takedowns, he causes scrambles, Wheezy. Like, he will shoot trying to force a scramble. He won't shoot with the intention of actually taking you down. He just wants you to find a way to scramble, and then will win that scramble. I love that. And he also uses it as a kind of a chess move to gas his opponents out. You know, you try and scramble at that type of speed, at that velocity for a 15-minute fight. Most people just cannot keep that up. So I love Mateusz Gamrot here in this spot. I think he can more than handle what Dariush brings on the mat. And then on the feet, Wheezy, he's got a nuclear missile of a right hand. That thing is so fast, and he changes it up really well. He does a cross with his right hand, and then he actually will switch stances and use it almost as a lead check hook. Like, he always puts that right hand to use in his fights. And that's the weapon that we've seen really clip Beneil Dariush. I've got questions about Dariush's durability at this point in his career. All 4 of his losses are by finish. 3 of those losses have come by KO. Mateusz has a 90% takedown defense, and we know the wrestling versus BJJ, Wheezy. If you're a BJJ guy, eventually you roll for a leg, you accept that bottom position, you're going to play off your back, and I think that's what happens here. I think Benny ends up on bottom, and Beneil gets his way on the feet, and I think eventually Beneil opens himself up to be clocked, and Mateusz hits him with a big right hand. It's another one where I'm leaning favorite, and it's another one where I think I'm going knockout. I think Mateusz handles Beneil Dariush on Saturday, quite frankly.
Yeah, when Brady and I were looking at the props for this fight on probability earlier today, one of the things that really stuck out were violence bets on this fight. It was the under 2.5 is sitting at plus 160. The fight doesn't go to decision, sitting at plus 130. Those are both trifecta bets, according to my template, which means that the implied probability of the line is lower than the benchmark for the division. It also means that the fighters finish at a higher rate than what the implied probability of the line is. And it also means that the fighters finish at a higher rate than the division does. Both of these guys are finishers. Dariush has been finished in 4 of 4 UFC losses, and we're getting big discounts on these violence bets. And I mean, Dariush just brings chaos every damn time. You know, kill or be killed. And when you look at what's interesting here, the level of competition that Dariush has fought overall is better. The wins are better. But when you look at the numbers overall, Gamrot 5 fights, 55 minutes. Dariush 20 UFC fights that have lasted 185 minutes. Dariush is out-controlling his opponents 43% to 8.3%. Gamrot's out-controlling his opponents 20% to 3%. So they both have these ratios where they're ratioing their opponents at like a 6-to-1 rate. That they're getting 6 seconds of control time for every one that they're yielding. It's actually Dariush who's spending a lot more time dominating his opponents than Gamrot is. So Dariush might be right there in terms of wrestling prowess. I think they're both fantastic submission grapplers. From what I've seen at the UFC level, Dariush might be more explosive on the feet. He might be the better striker. I like getting Beneil at plus money here. Beneil's only 2 years older. He's got a 2-inch reach advantage. It's a southpaw versus southpaw matchup, which is a matchup you don't see often. I think I'm leaning on the plus money side here for Dariush. but it's another high-level fight where there's perfectly good reasons to like both sides. The bet that I'm leaning on, once again, under 2.5 or fight doesn't go to decision. I'm looking at the violence bets here. They're significantly underpriced according to how the division finishes fights and how these two fighters finish fights at the UFC level.
I like it, Uncle Weezy. Another violent spot. I absolutely can see that happening here. I don't mind it at all. I see a lot of love. I see a lot of love for Benny here, but man, he's coming off a layoff. He's a guy I've seen wobble a few too many times. I'm not really worried about the durability of Gamrot. Granted, if you enter into a firefight with somebody like Benny, you always could get clipped and go down. But definitely, I think I'm sticking to my guns here, boys. I know everybody's talking about Benny in the chat, but I think I'm on Gamrot, and I think I'm going to take that KO prop as well. Suffering over here, Uncle Weezy, suffering as my Coyotes melt down. It is now 2-2. They blew the 2-goal lead in the third period. My plus 425 is in jeopardy. The plus 2.5 is probably still looking just fine, but I want the money line, Weezy. I want the money line.
You want that plus 425 every damn time. That's how you stack them like flapjacks, dude.
Weezy, you make a ballsy call like that, you sack up and bet a plus 425, you want to get rewarded for it. But damn, the Leafs, that offense, they pulled their heads out of their ass, and they're just they're a little too potent right now. My Coyotes need to get back in this damn thing. All right, everybody, 159 live viewers hanging out with us again. Thank you all so much. We're down to the final 3 fights. This is where shit gets good. Smash that like button for us. We've got Petrosyan taking on Sugar Sean O'Malley. And I know you all expect me to just kind of come in here and roast Sean O'Malley, because that's kind of my thing, right? Like I'm a Sean O'Malley hater, and I'm okay with it. Like that's what I do. But I don't think I can on this one. So quite frankly, all right, let me be honest with you guys. Let me be open and honest. I'm just going to open the book here. I like to hate on Sean O'Malley because it pisses his fanboys off. You make a TikTok about how shitty he is, and you get all the clicks and all the views you want. So I actually respect Sean O'Malley, the way he's managed his career, the type of athlete he is, the speed, the finishing ability. Like, I recognize how special this kid has a chance to be. I really do. So don't get that twisted whatsoever. But he's just too fun to hate on. And there have been a couple things that I do take issue with, like the fact that he lost the first round to Pedro Munoz. Like, people want to ignore the fact that Pedro Munoz outscored him, outlanded him, and all the judges scored round 1 for him because he just kicked the leg. He only kicked the leg, Weezy. All he did was kick the leg. Like, bro, like, that's winning a fight, though. Like, you land more than your opponent does equals win. So I don't care about all the other stuff, the goofball, the fake hating from my side of things. Like, he actually did lose that first round to Pedro Munoz. Now, he's going up against Petrosyan in a 3-round fight where, quite frankly, Weezy, I don't know what to do, because both of these guys have a tendency of coasting early. Petrosyan is built for 5 rounds. He is built to give away that first round, download the information from his opponent, and then crank it. And the Aldo fight was the perfect example. He murdered Aldo in the 5th round because he just downloaded all the information and destroyed him throughout the 4 rounds of that fight. I'm worried about him here in a 3-round fight. It's been so long since he's been in a 3-rounder. I'm not quite sure how he approaches it. Maybe he starts faster in this one. And frankly, I think that would be a good choice. But Sean O'Malley has cheat codes. He's so tall. He's so long. Somebody who's shorter like Petrosyan, if you're going to pick like a top 5 guy to target, that's the right target. That's the guy that's going to struggle to hit you back. And while I want to say Petrosyan leg kicks the hell out of Sean O'Malley and chips away at him, and we see that durability question mark flare up again, O'Malley showed some really nice checks in his last fight. Like, even though he did get his leg kicked a lot in round 1 against Pedro Munoz, he checked a lot of those. That dissuades your opponent from throwing them. That hurts. And on top of that, it doesn't do the damage that you would think it does when you check them. So I'm not entirely convinced that leg kicks are the path here against Sean O'Malley. I think this line opened up way wide. But at the same time, it also almost feels a little like bait, Weezy. Like, with how popular Sean O'Malley is and how wide this line opened, they're just soaking up all that sugar Sean O'Malley love. And you got to wonder, it's not often I pull out the tinfoil hat for that kind of a thing, but you got to wonder if the bookies have taken a position here and they baited a big price tag thinking, come on, bring the money in, kind of a Conor Khabib type of situation where they're more than happy to give you the price that you want because they know what side's going to get their hand raised. I like Petrosyan a lot, former champion, but I also worry about his fight IQ. Sometimes he's just too willing to brawl. Aljamain Sterling was able to come in and use a perfect game plan, get his hand raised against this guy because he just wants to slug. He just wants to stand in front of you. He's got that nice high guard shell, protects himself, blocks a lot of oncoming punches. But the range and the speed of Sugar O'Malley has me scared here, Wheezy. I am not laying this price tag with Petrosyan. Believe it or not, this is a Sean O'Malley dog or pass position for me. The number one Sean O'Malley hater on the planet. It's a Sean O'Malley spot or pass from my perspective. I can see this being a 3-round war. I can see it going all 15 minutes. But with the kind of offense both these guys are capable of, I wouldn't be shocked at all if somebody goes down at some point either. Wheezy, help me out here. Help me find an option. Do we just pass on this one because it's going to be so fun to watch? What's the move here, Uncle Wheezy? What do you got for me?
All right, so when you look at the stats, right, it'll lead you to say, oh wow, O'Malley's going to be live here, and I think this is one where you kind of have to look a little bit more towards the narrative side, which I hate doing. But here's what I look at Sean O'Malley. When I think of Sean O'Malley, I think of a guy who has been handled with kit gloves, right? I think he picked literally every fight. I think he went to Dana and said, I want to fight this bum who has no fucking chance of beating me. These guys that he's beating, I mean, every fight, the Pedro Munoz fight and the Marlon Vera fight are the only fucking real fights that this guy has had at the UFC level. All right? And he dropped the ball against Pedro, was losing that fight. He got smoked by Marlon Vera. And then it's like Rowley and Paiva. That's the best win. Chris Montino. This guy wasn't even in the UFC, and they brought him in to fight Sean O'Malley. Thomas Almeida, who hadn't won a fight in like 7 years or some shit. And then you go back before that, and it's bum, 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 bum. This is Petrosyan. This is, if you're 29 and you were born in Siberia, you're beating the fucking odds, right? This guy just survives, and that's good enough. I think he's so much better than Sean O'Malley. I think if this fight happens 100 times, Jan probably wins it 98 out of 100 times. Look, the level of competition, not even close. Not even close. The grappling, not even close. This guy took down Aljamain Sterling 8 times out of 8 attempts and dominated Aljamain Sterling on the ground. Even on the feet, I think that Petrosyan is probably the better striker because he's got more power. Another thing, I want everybody, if you think that, all right, look, Sean O'Malley got walked down for 14 and a half minutes by Chris Montino. That fight shouldn't have even been stopped, even though he was really putting it on Montino. But look at the end of the second round. I urge all of you, look at the look on Sean O'Malley's face at the end of the second round of the Moutinho fight. He was exhausted from getting walked down by a striker who is 2% of the quality of Petrosyan. Petrosyan was walking down Aljamain Sterling in the striking exchanges of those fights. I think he's going to do the same thing to Sean. I don't think that reach and height advantage that Sean O'Malley has is going to mean anything here. I think Peter's going to walk this dude down. I think he's probably going to put him up against the cage. I think it's almost a certainty that he takes down Sean several times and beats him up on the ground. And I just haven't seen Sean against any real mixed martial artist ever show anything to suggest that he has even the smallest chance of coming out of this fight with his hand raised. I think Petrosyan is going to murder this dude.
Okay. That is a strong opinion, and that's exactly what I was looking for, Wheezy, because, yeah, like I said, I'm getting a little semi-spooked here in this spot. Now, perfect thing by Wheezy to go ahead and bring up, and obviously I don't want to get, tagged or taken down or anything like that, so I can't play the video for you, but here's like kind of a still shot of the end of round 2. Before this moment, Sean O'Malley does whiff with a giant counter strike and does look a little lost, and he's pinned up here against the cage by Chris Moutinho for a decent little 30 seconds here at the end of the fight. So there may be a little truth to what Uncle Wheezy is saying. I'm going to have to go back and review a little further about that. But if the walking down is an issue, a guy who's used to going forward is now having the pressure put on him, Wheezy may be onto something here with that one. So I think I am picking Petr Yan. I've been picking Petr Yan this entire time. But my Coyote scored again. Sorry. Okay. I know people watching this later on who are not live and haven't been sweating with me the entire 2 hours of the stream are going to be like, the fuck is that about? This guy screams Yotes in the middle of an MMA breakdown. Yeah, sorry, guys. I'm a Coyotes fan. So I'm picking Petr Yan. Wheezy, I have to pick Petr Yan. I must pick Petr Yan. But at the same time, I can't rely on my my seething hatred for Sean O'Malley and parlay him up and just kind of blanketly disrespect this young kid that's quite obviously making big improvements in his game and things of that nature. So probably a pass for me. I understand it if you guys are parlaying Petr Yan. I get it. It makes sense. I also understand anybody who wants to buy the hype and take a KO prop on Sean O'Malley. But quite frankly, Jan's made a steal, Wheezy. Like nobody's been able to crack this guy. If O'Malley is the first one to pull it off, if O'Malley is the first one to hit hard enough to actually crack the defense of Petr Yan and put him away, I will crown him champion on Saturday. I'll do an apology video and be like, no one's stopping this kid if he pulls that off. So I'll be watching with bated breath. This is going to be a very exciting fight. We've all been waiting for the moment where Sean O'Malley finally took on a real contender, a real opponent. And here it is. Is it the perfect opponent for him? Yes. Once again, it is the perfect opponent for him to take his next step up against. But it's still a very dangerous, very real, very legit opponent. And the UFC wants him to win, Wheezy. The UFC wants Sean O'Malley. Dana White's been on record multiple times, even just this week, talking about how big a star this kid is going to be. How he's a global superstar. He's this close to achieving it. He's their next Conor McGregor. The UFC has a homegrown prospect here in Sean O'Malley, and they really want him to succeed. And that's another one of those things where, again, that's not usually my angle. The narrative is not usually my angle. But I kind of get it here. So tread lightly, folks. Be careful here on this one. I'm going to watch this fight very, very closely. Any wrap-up thoughts there on that one, Wheezy, before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I mean, if the UFC wants Sean O'Malley to get a win, they picked the wrong fucking opponent. That's what I'm going to say to this one. Yeah, I think Jan's going to destroy this kid, but kudos to Sean for taking this fight. It's a great measuring stick to find out where he is in his mixed martial arts career. And Sean O'Malley's only 27 years old. He can lose this fight, learn from it, get better, and be champion 5 years from now. It could still happen. He's got a lot of growing to do, but Petr Yan's only 29. This guy's getting better too. So I'm very confident in Petr Yan.
I like it. I like it, Uncle Wheezy. All right, everybody, here we go. Co-main event time. Aljamain Sterling taking on TJ Dillashaw for the undisputed UFC's Bantamweight Championship. I am so beyond pumped for this fight, Wheezy. I am so stoked for this fight. I have a very strong opinion for this fight as well. Wheezy, let's just start with a little bit of backstory, right? We're not even talking about the Tate bullshit going on with Aljo Sterling. He's maybe the most hated bantamweight champion in history. Like, nobody likes Aljamain Sterling. And it's another narrative situation where I find it extremely interesting that this man went from being a pick'em price tag against Petr Yan in the first fight to being a massive, massive underdog in the rematch. And people called me crazy, Wheezy. I've had a rough year sports gambling in 2022, but one of the best decisions I've ever made was sacking up and pulling the trigger on Aljamain Sterling at plus 350. And on top of that, a bet that really would help pad the awfulness that is my official record right now is if I had tracked the Aljamain by split decision prop because I'm pretty sure that was 50-1, and that bad boy came through here for me. So I sacked up and took the shot on Aljamain Sterling because money lines matter in gambling. He went from -110 to +350, and that simply doesn't compute. It's the same fight. It's the same match, different game plan, different results. Aljamain Sterling is a fantastic fighter, and he deserves more respect than he's gotten from the betting market. The man is on some kind of run. That said, Wheezy, I think TJ Dillashaw is the worst matchup for him in the division. TJ Dillashaw never lost his belt. We all know the whole USADA situation. The UFC has been steering real hard into the drug situation and what happened with TJ Dillashaw. And I think there is a big, big issue with that situation. And yes, TJ probably has some history on PEDs, but as Nate Diaz said, everybody's on PEDs. Like, you guys really think Aljamain Sterling isn't on something? Like, just because TJ got caught trying to go for a dual champ status against Henry Cejudo, like, you really think that Aljamain Sterling isn't taking something that he probably shouldn't be on? Look at the abs. You don't get abs like that without having something extra in the system. So, just saying, it's more of a fair playing field than people are giving it credit for. But TJ Dillashaw has been, quite frankly, the undisputed king of this weight class for years. Wheezy. He lost his belt to Dominic Cruz in a split decision back in 2016 that, quite frankly, I felt went the wrong direction. And then he's smoked everybody since. KO'd Cody Garbrandt twice viciously. Now, obviously, the Henry Cejudo fight was ill-advised. And even if you watch that fight, like, I cashed a ticket on Henry Cejudo by knockout in that fight, Wheezy. So I was super happy with that result. But if you watch that fight, he actually looks like he's recovering. He looks like that fight, that punch doesn't quite land, and the ref steps in and waves it off just a little early. I'm not convinced it was a good stoppage, frankly. I have no reason to doubt TJ Dillashaw, and you want to go back a little more recently here. Corey Sandhagen. Yes, he won that fight by split decision, and maybe that fight went the wrong direction, Wheezy. But Dillashaw blew his knee out in the first round of a 25-minute fight against Corey Sandhagen. And he fought his ass off. If there was ever a good soldier, if there was ever a dog that would fight for your money, his name is TJ Dillashaw. He did not quit. He did not fold. And in fact, he rocked Corey Sandhagen multiple times in that fight and managed to win a split decision, which, quite frankly, I think he earned. Like, what, even if the decision went the wrong way, like, how can you hate on that kind of an effort not getting rewarded? He ended up throwing, let me pull the numbers up here. He threw a total of 268 strikes, 110 of those being significant, and he shot 19 takedowns, Wheezy. Like, that kind of output is quite simply unmatched. I think TJ Dillashaw is the returning king. I think the wrong fighter is favored. I think that his wrestling is strong enough to handle the wrestling of Aljamain Sterling. I think his striking is better than Aljamain Sterling. It's on par with Petr Yan's striking. Wrong fighter favored here. I'm big on TJ Dillashaw. 5-unit bet for me, Wheezy. My 7-unit bet is my legendary 4-0 undefeated lock. It's my 10-unit max bet, essentially. Whenever I make that same move on an underdog rather than laying it with a favorite, I've capped myself at a 5-unit max. For I don't know why, for whatever reason, that's my max. I go on underdogs, but I've got a 5-unit play here on TJ Dillashaw. I think that we've swung from Aljamain Sterling getting disrespected too much to Aljamain Sterling getting respected too much. And now that we've gone back the other direction, we have got value on TJ Dillashaw, who has every tool necessary to defeat this man. I'm riding to the bank with the snake. Let's go, TJ. I'm on it, and I'm on it big.
I don't know what I want to do with this fight, but when I look at this fight, the statistics that stick out the most to me are as follows, right? Aljamain Sterling spending about 50% of his 211 minutes in the cage in control time positions for or against. And he's winning about 60% of those positions, right? So half the time out there at striking range, half the time in the grappling exchanges. And we know that Aljo is a better grappler than he is a striker, but a very well-rounded mixed martial artist who's great everywhere. That's why he's the champ. But here's the thing about Dillashaw, right? You got Aljamain Sterling's getting 30% control time for, and he's allowing 20%. So 1.5 to 1 ratio of control time for to control time against. TJ Dillashaw's got about 25% control time for, while Aljo's got 30% control time for. But Aljo's being controlled 19% of his career. TJ Dillashaw is being controlled 0.9% of his career. So for every 1 second of control time that TJ Dillashaw gives up, he gets 26. It's a 26 to 1 ratio of control time for to control time against. TJ Dillashaw has been taken down only 5 times on 37 attempts. That's 86.5% takedown defense. He's allowing 0.35 takedowns per 15 minutes. And he's been controlled for 2 minutes of his entire 216 minutes that he's been in the UFC cage. So, how does Aljamain Sterling win this fight if he's not controlling this fight for 40% of the fight? Right? Because, I mean, if we, and I don't want to get into the whole who won the second fight. I think Petr Yan won it. He didn't, okay? The judges said that Sterling won the first round. I don't see how that happened, but that's all right, okay? 3 minutes and 50 seconds of control time for Aljamain Sterling in round 2. 3 minutes and 43 seconds of control time for Aljamain Sterling in round 3. Those were the definitive rounds. Those were the rounds that he won cleanly. Yan won the 4th and the 5th cleanly. Yan even got 4 minutes of control time in round number 4. But we see that Aljo's got to control in order to win fights. He's not winning on the feet against Petr Yan. He's, these distance striking numbers are all in favor of Yan. And even though Aljo tried 22 takedowns and he only got 2 of them, those 2 takedowns, they translated to almost 8 minutes of control time and they won him the fight. How does it happen against TJ? Nobody's taking this guy down and holding him down. And he's been fighting at the very highest level of the UFC since the time he came in off of The Ultimate Fighter. He was fighting killers in The Ultimate Fighter house, for Christ's sake. It's been really high level of competition. But TJ's a cheater, okay? We don't know where he's at. He has not been active. There's only been 1 fight in the last 3-4 years? And then you got a guy in Aljo who you really do need to know that he's going to get takedowns and control time. Because if he doesn't, how do you see him winning minutes against TJ Dillashaw? I don't see it happening. Dillashaw is the way more active striker, the more accurate striker, the more powerful striker, and he just throws a lot more volume. He's just a lot more active. So I like this fight on paper for TJ Dillashaw, but how many the activity of TJ is what's really worrying me here, because we've seen Aljo, have to take some time off as well because of the neck injury. But TJ Dillashaw had the Sandhagen fight in 2021, and then it was the 125-pound fight at the beginning of 2019. In all of 2020, or 19, 20, 21, and 22, he's only fought twice. So I see why he's plus money here. The win over Sandhagen's a fantastic win, but there's a lot of unknowns here. Which version of TJ Dillashaw are we getting? Are we getting a version that's completely free of PEDs, for instance? We don't know. We don't know how often he's being tested. We don't know what kind of shape he's in right now. There's a lot of unknowns, and even Aljo hasn't been that active. And on paper, it's a tough matchup for Aljo because Aljo does his best when he's getting takedowns and getting into the grappling exchanges. And plain and simple, nobody's taking down TJ and holding him down. So I think on paper, I like it for TJ, but I think I'm going to wait and see on this one and just maybe not even bet it at all, simply because I just don't know where this guy's at right now.
Okay. Weezy, I think those are all fair points. For me, it's a spot where I've had a great read on Aljamain Sterling. I was rewarded for sacking up and betting on him at a giant plus number the last time out. My confidence is sky high on how I feel and read about this man, and I simply think TJ's got him everywhere. You know, as long as he doesn't have some kind of a breakdown, blow another, ligament or a knee or something like that, I think he's got Aljamain covered everywhere. He can compete in the grappling. He doesn't get finished. He doesn't get tapped. His striking is better. He's more aggressive. And quite frankly, folks, we are talking gambling. I don't condone cheating. I don't like cheating.
Yeah.
But I think most of the UFC roster probably is doing something that they shouldn't be. We just haven't had it confirmed. People want to shit on TJ because he had it confirmed. It's, okay, I get it. I do.
Mm-hmm.
But if we're talking about putting money down on an opportunity to get a return on an investment, give me the guy on EPO. Like, what the hell? Like, I'm not the one doing the drugs. I don't have a problem. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not the one cheating on it, but we might as well reap the rewards of it. If it's going to happen, we might as well take advantage of it. So, Weezy, I'm on TJ. I'm on TJ big here. I think it's and new. I think the snake is back. I think worst case scenario, we should be arguing that this is a pick 'em price tag. I think TJ is maybe the one human being that people hate more than Aljamain Sterling, and especially with him coming off of robbing Corey Sandhagen in his last fight, that's really pushing people against him here in this spot. We're getting line value against a championship caliber fighter that will never quit fighting for your money. I don't know if he can finish Aljamain Sterling. Aljamain is notoriously hard to finish unless you hit him with an illegal knee. So I'm kind of thinking TJ by decision, but I may sprinkle the knockout just for a little taste, because quite frankly, TJ has made a lot lately about breaking Aljamain Sterling, and I think he can. I believe him. I think he can.
It's a hell of a fight, man, and we haven't seen much of either of these guys lately, so I'm really looking forward to this one.
Cannot wait. And there's only one fight on the card that may be even better than the co-main event, Uncle Weezy, and we are going to talk about it right now, everybody. Make sure you smash that like button here. This is Pub Sports Radio. We got over 200 live viewers hanging out with us right now, so thank you so much for hanging out with us here for this fight. Next up, main event, Charles "Do Bronx" Oliveira taking on none other than Islam Makhachev. What a fight. Folks, this is the big one. We have been talking about this fight in hushed tones for years. Charles Oliveira has gone from being the kid who we called a quitter, a kid that we took every opportunity to fade, to being on a ridiculous win streak and finishing some of the best, most well-known names the division has ever seen. Dustin Poirier, Michael Chandler, Tony Ferguson, Justin Gaethje. This man has answered every single question and then some, and came back for more. His opponent, Islam Makhachev, is the heir to the throne that Khabib left empty, the only undefeated UFC fighter to actually retire on top and hang it up before he took that loss. Has christened this man the next champion. The second eagle is what they called him on the Embedded series. Islam Makhachev has been coming for this opportunity for years. 22-1. This is it, folks. UFC 280 is the most stacked card of 2022, and we've been waiting for this fight. Weezy, I cannot wait to break it down with you. I'm going to let you lead, Weezy. There have got to be numbers. There have got to be stats. There's got to be things to say that haven't been said, because we all know about the finishing prowess of Charles Oliveira. We all know about him bringing in an Iranian wrestler. We all know about Islam Makhachev. We know about Khabib. We know about Abdulmanap Father's plan. Tell us the numbers, Weezy. How do you see this fight breaking down from a statistical standpoint?
Okay, so Oliveira, 4-inch reach advantage. We like that. He's a couple of years older than Islam. It's a southpaw versus orthodox matchup. Both power weapons are going to be open for both guys on the feet. Oliveira, more experience, about 19 more professional fights, about 70 more minutes in the pro cage, 18 more fights at the UFC level, 100 more minutes in the UFC cage. And we got Charles Oliveira, who has got a ridiculous 90% finish rate at the UFC level. And as a pro, it's a 91% finish rate. But he's also been finished in 7 of his 8 losses as a pro. and 7 of his 8 losses at the UFC level. So Islam is a guy who we can count on to wrestle and to win minutes in the wrestling. 52% control time for, only 9% control time allowed. He's takedowning his opponents 25-2. He's got 88% takedown defense. And Charles Oliveira, 41% on his takedowns, which is excellent, but it's 66% for Makhachev. And even though, Oliveira gets 30% control time in his own right, he's giving up 27% control time, and he's showing only 57% takedown defense. He's not going to get his takedown defense to the point in one fight camp where he's going to be stopping Islam. I really hope Charles wins this fight, right? But when you put them up category by category, right, you say, okay, yeah, I do like Charles in the striking exchanges here, but how likely is it that this fight's going to take place in the striking exchanges at all, where Charles has got more power on the feet, where he's got a 4-inch reach advantage, where he's going to be more comfortable than Islam? It's very unlikely, because Islam is so good at taking the fight to where he wants it. And if it means he needs to be on the ground and worrying about the submissions of Charles Oliveira, I still think that he would be better there than on the feet, because one of the things that Islam does so well is he's not really wrestling so much in the middle of the cage. He's got a part of your body up against that cage, which limits your ability to be able to hunt for submissions that actually have a chance of landing. So as much as I want Oliveira to win this, as much as I think he's the way more exciting fighter, the way more marketable fighter, the fighter I like more, I think Islam is the smart side here. He's the much better minute winner. And if we look at Charles Oliveira's ability to be able to stop takedowns and get back up and threaten with submissions while he's on the fence, I just really think we're going to see Islam win this one, win it by submission. The fight doesn't go to decision feels like a great parlay piece here, because Oliveira's fights finish inside the distance 90% of the time, and that's over a 42-fight sample size. And we can even add to that fact, Clint, that Charles Oliveira's never even seen a 4th or a 5th round in his entire career. So feel free to parlay up that fight doesn't go. The pick is going to be Islam Makhachev to win it by submission inside the distance. But, man, this fight, I can't wait for this fight. These are 2 of the best mixed martial artists on planet Earth.
It's so good, Weezy. It's so good. I cannot wait for this fight. Quite frankly, folks, I am taking a strong stance on this fight. I refuse to pick a side. I have been wrong on Charles Oliveira for the last 5 years. Cannot get the kid right. The only time I've picked a Charles Oliveira fight correctly is when he faced Jared Gordon, who's the only other guy I wanted to fade more than him. So I don't have a good read on Charles do Bronx Oliveira. And what you can count on, maybe even more than death taxes and Caitlin Chukagian by decision, what you can count on is when I am wrong on a fighter 9 out of 10 times, trying to fade them, and then I jump on them, I'm wrong. I'm dead wrong. Every time that happens, I want to jump on Charles Oliveira so badly right now, Weezy. I want to back Charlie O in this spot. Making the seeded champion an underdog is blasphemous, in my opinion. That's something you simply cannot do. At worst, it needs to be a pick'em price tag, because this guy showed us just how damn good he is. He's beaten everybody the UFC has put in front of us. How in the hell is he an underdog? But I completely understand Islam Makhachev. I understand the Russian coast. I understand the relentless grappling. I have talked about how when you get a wrestler versus a jiu-jitsu player, the wrestler simply wins with top position. That's how it happens. The jiu-jitsu guy eventually accepts that bottom position. A lifetime of Dagestani wrestling cannot be made up for in one camp, Weezy. Now, I know Charles has had his eyes on Khabib, and he's had his eyes on Islam for years. So it's not like he's only been working wrestling for this one camp, but there's just levels to this shit. You can't make up that difference in such a short amount of time. I do have questions about Islam Makhachev. I have questions about his chin. He is not Khabib, folks. He has been reversed. He's been taken advantage of in some grappling exchanges. Thiago Moises reversed this kid, took his back, and had his neck. very early in that fight. That's a situation that I cannot turn a blind eye to. I absolutely think that Charles Oliveira is capable of doing that and more in this spot. So I don't feel comfortable backing a chalky favorite who has a much more questionable resume. You're betting on the unknown with Islam Makhachev coming up against this caliber of an opponent. But I get it. 21-1, Khabib's second coming. How could you not love this guy? I think this fight is so good, Uncle Weezy, that I simply do not want to put money on it. I want to enjoy it as a fan. I have confirmed with Superbook Sports. Obviously, guys, I try to give you every piece of information I possibly can. So anytime they're good or their respected bettors roll in and put money down, I pass that information along to you. Their best guy bet Islam Makhachev. They have respected sharp action on Islam Makhachev. So that's something that I personally never want to be in the line of fire for. It doesn't end well when I go head-to-head with that guy, whoever he may be. God bless you out there. So I am leaning to Charles Oliveira, but the way everything lines up, that tells you you should be smashing Islam Makhachev because I want to back Bronx here in this spot. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that Islam is going to finish Charles Oliveira because I don't think you're submitting Charles Oliveira, quite frankly. Ground and pound, maybe. But I also think that Charles Oliveira has gotten rid of the quit that we used to see him very early on in his fight. He doesn't pull that shit anymore. He is literally willing to die in the cage. And the way he'll scramble and roll and attack, I think it's going to take almost everything Islam's got to control him on the mat. I don't think this is going to be a one-sided beating. So I do think Islam Makhachev wins, but frankly, if I was going to play the total Louisi, I think I'd be looking at the over. I'm going to pick Islam, maybe a late finish, maybe decision. That's going to be the pick. Folks, my money is going nowhere near this fight. You can make the argument, Weezy, for both of these men that if they win, you will never get that line again. You're never seeing plus money again on Charles Oliveira unless Khabib comes out of retirement to avenge Islam Makhachev's honor. You're never getting minus 175 on Islam Makhachev again if he wins here against Charles Bronx Oliveira because he's going to mow down the rest of the division without any type of a problem. And when you've got that argument happening on both sides, I don't want to be on the wrong side. I simply don't want to be stuck there with the ticket in my hand going, yeah, I guess it was always Islam. Well, no shit, Charles Oliveira was going to tap him out. Like, it's one of those ones where you look like a fool no matter what side you end up being on. So God bless you. Folks, if you get out there and you've got a strong opinion and cash a ticket on this fight, I'm rooting for you. I hope you make money. I want you to win and fill your pockets. Not me. There's other spots on this card I'm more interested in, Weezy.
I couldn't agree more, man. There's other spots that I'm willing to smash, but this is such a high-level fight, and it's such an intriguing fight that it's easy to say, you know what, I'm going to step back and just watch it. I'm emotionally invested anyway. These are fantastic fighters, and I can't wait to see how this one plays out. I can't wait to see how somebody with the striking prowess and the Brazilian jiu-jitsu game of Oliveira matches up against somebody with that incredible control time pedigree that Islam Makhachev has. You know, it's such a great fight. I'm picking Makhachev to win it. I think he gets it done inside the distance, and I've got a 5-unit max bet on the fight doesn't go to decision, which I got at minus 172. Ooh. So minus 172 is ridiculous for a 5-round fight where we've never seen Oliveira even enter a 4th round. And the guy fights like he's triple parked, you know, and both of these guys are finishers of the highest order. I really believe that this one's going to finish inside the distance.
Now, Weezy, real quick here. I did say that I lean towards the over on this one. Superbook Sports is not currently hosting an over. I am going off the blanket assumption that this is a 2.5. What's the total on this fight?
The total on the 2.5 is right now minus 165 for the under and plus 135 for the over on Bet Online. Now, there's a few different lines on this one. They're all over the place. You could get as good as minus 143 for the under, and you can get as good as plus 135 for the under. But even the under, they're saying that there's about a 45% chance that this finishes under, or I'm sorry, it's about a 60% chance that this finishes under 2.5 rounds, according to the lines right now.
Okay. So I'm just glad it's not like sitting at 4.5 or something. So I do lean to the over 2.5 at plus money, quite frankly. But I'm going to concede to the fact that I do think this fight finishes. So round 3, 4, and 5, I think it exceptionally scary. And I do think this fight does not go the distance. So I don't mind the violence bet there whatsoever, Wheezy. And our guy Goat Zay here saying, I hate when I'm emotionally invested. You're all of us right now, Goat. You are all of us as gamblers. I hate when I'm emotionally invested. Folks, that is UFC 280. Uncle Wheezy is the boss of all bosses, chilling with me for 2.5 straight hours of content here, bringing to you all the information we've possibly got to try to help you make a good bet and enjoy UFC 280. Folks, support this man. Smash the like button. Wheezy, my friend, tell the people what you've got cooking under the hood. What shows do you have coming up? Where can they find you to support you? The floor is yours, my guy.
Yeah, you can find me on Twitter at MMA Wheezy. You can find me on my Patreon / Uncle Wheezy. You could also find me on the on Pub Sports Radio every Sunday for Stack Diggers, every Wednesday for the DFS show, and every Saturday for the Watch Along. And you can find me on my YouTube channel, Uncle Wheezy, every 10 o'clock Central Time on Tuesday night. We do Just the Tip with Uncle Wheezy, break down the full card, finish with Uncle Wheezy's ass shaving of the week. And also on the MMA Engine YouTube channel earlier today, DFS by the Numbers and I did Probability, where we give you a data-driven look into all the time props on the UFC 280 card, where we use my my prop template where I've got all the analytics embedded in it, and we kind of try to find value in the data on the over-under lines. But you can find me just about anywhere. There's dudes going balls deep into the statistics of UFC fights. I appreciate all you guys hanging out with us here on a Monday night, breaking down the best card of the year. And I hope that we all stack cash tickets like flapjacks for this event.
Hell yeah. Thank you all so much. We had over 200 live viewers for the majority of the show. Thank each and every one of you. Smash the like button on your way out, folks. You can always find me at Die Hard MMA Pod on all your social media platforms. I've got the Deadlock podcast with my guy MMA Lock of the Night, Manpreet, coming up on Wednesday this week. We've got the Total Takedown Thursday. We've got the Undefeated Post-Weigh-In Show where we break out the tinfoil cap on Friday, and I'm going to do a sharp action roundup with the guys from Superbook Sports. So I'm going to ask them where their respected bettors' money has come from, and we'll have that show for you later in the week for this big-ass card as well. Thank each and every one of you. You guys are awesome. We wish you the best. Get out there this week and kick some ass. We all got to survive until Saturday this week, folks. We're all going to be foaming at the mouth, chomping at the bit for the best card of the year. Hang in there. We're almost there. We're going to get there together, everybody. Be the light that you want in your life, the things that you want for yourself, the people around you also want. Be kind to each other. Be excellent to each other. Party on, dudes. Everybody, let's roll. Have a great week.